All right. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? It's great to see you guys here. Thank you for tuning in. Man, that was a very close vote, so I apologize for the loss on anyone's behalf there. That one was a bit of an oof, I will say, a bit of an L, as they call it. But yes, we are going to be checking out the Infinite and the Divine today. Obviously, this is with your boy fucking Trazen, I'm pretty sure. I don't know... What's his name? Orican? I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I recall. I wrote it down here just so I didn't forget. I'm pretty sure I have the spelling wrong. Orican, I'm pretty sure. And he, if I remember correctly, he fucks with time, doesn't he? Isn't that his whole piece? He fucks with time a lot. I'm not too sure, honestly. I don't know a whole lot about the story, but I am excited to check his out. Trazen? I don't know, man. Is it Trazen? Is it Trazen or Trazen? Because I don't know, man. How's it spelled specifically? Is that how it's spelled? Because man, I gotta see for myself. Trazen? I don't know. See, the spelling and the way people pronounce it, it's hard to say. Trazen? Trazen? There's like fucking 4 ways you could pronounce this shit. Yeah, like, to be honest, it's pronounced like 4 different ways depending who reads it. Exactly, like literally. I've heard so many people pronounce it different ways. Shit is insane, honestly. Or kleptomatic. Yeah, true. He stole the vote, added to his collection. Dude, he literally did. I'm pretty sure that was honestly a plan. It was a plot, very clearly. But yeah, guys, we're gonna get right into this video. This is a 2-hour, 8-minute long video by the Amber King, obviously. Amber King makes fantastic works, as we've seen on the channel. We check him out pretty consistently. My cat is here if you hear him crying. He's a bit of a baby. He likes attention, so if you hear him, I apologize. I might open the door, let him out if he wants out. So if I do that, ignore that. Also, I do obviously have pen and paper. I'm going to be writing stuff down. If you see me looking down, obviously that's what I'm doing. Don't get upset. That's been the gig here for a while now. So, you know, I know there's a lot of new people here recently. That's how we do things around here. But let's get right into it, guys. The thieving pensioner, pretty much.
I resisted. I saw the delusion.
The history of this galaxy is an open book to me.
I prefer to look to the future, to navigate the future.
And
Where's those
my
captions?
profession is the story of everything.
See this guy? He's huge.
Existentialism is possibly the most onerous imposition of life. The need to ask why, to find some explanation. War and strife affect all known societies, and all species spend their existences competing with others for limited resources.
Yes, please like the stream, by the way. Thank you,
To the
Goop.
wretched stench of the aged dying in their own filth. Life is a series of squabbles and ugly messes. There is an alternative. There exists a state in which all
I apologize if I
conflict
just
is
broke
resolved,
anybody's headset there.
and all is cold and silent. There are no wants, no wars, no squabbles. You may call this state death if you wish, but that is a misnomer. Death is but the ending of life, and that is only a means to an end. That
goes
end
pretty
is
hard.
purity, the time when all is still and unchanging. Our universe began in purity, and it will return to that blessed state. Hastening that return is the great work of perfected beings. I have awoken, and you have tried to undo our great work. You have spread your vile, unclean selves across the galaxy, making a mockery of the beautiful silence we had wrought.
Great stream. I recommend The Betrayal at Calth by Oculus
Rejoice,
Imperia. I'll write that down
for
right
we have
now.
returned, and your days are at an end.
Thank you for the recommendation, sir.
Two parties, the historian and their audience.
Bit long, but in
Without
super mega
that,
detail.
one
Yeah, I'll
is
look at it.
just
I'll look into
talking
that.
to oneself. So kindly stop screaming, and you might learn something. scion of the
Oh.
Nihalak dynasty, overlord of Solemnace, Trazyn the Infinite, a figure of mischief, a preserver of histories, artifacts and events, and a thorn in the side of all races within the galaxy. Wherever Trazyn treads, mayhem.
Sorry, I gotta let my cat out of the room, guys. I apologize. There we go. He's needy. He's needy. My sister's dog is currently over right now. It stresses him out a little bit. He's very yappy. So if you hear a fucking chihuahua barking in the background too, know that I've been putting up with that shit also. Okay, I apologize for it. I'm gonna state the obvious right now. If you hear that, I apologize. Okay, I have no control over that. But yes, obviously. I'm really liking. So is this Necron lore? Yeah, the Necron tier. So he's gonna go in and he's actually gonna give some prelude on the actual Necrons here, which is pretty interesting. We obviously do we know a little bit about the Necrons, but I'm not gonna skip this. Obviously, I do like the refresher. Man, let's keep going with this.
Destruction follow in his wake. But he does not pillage the galaxy unchallenged.
Oh.
For there is one who equals this cosmic curator. A rival. Only
Somebody
the
who
most
equals
parochial
him.
beings think that stars twinkle. That is an illusion of atmosphere. An observation of one who has never traveled space.
I will say too, when you're scaling with the Necrons too, like I feel like when you're talking with these like Necron, I guess High Lords, is that what you'd call them? Royalty in a sense. Man, like you're talking about like people that can like literally play with like the fucking galaxy, you know what I'm saying? They can do whatever the hell they want whenever they want. You know, nothing is really stopping them besides their own inhibitions, you know, quite literally. Their own technology in a sense failing them oddly when it does happen, I guess. Their own hubris too, I will say. Pharaohs, overlords. What would be the correct word, I guess? What would you guys say? Tell the feline overlord to just knock off the yapping. Yeah, he will not. He does what he wants, I promise. He will simply just do whatever he pleases. He come and goes as he likes, but, you know. Arrogance. Arrogance is a great word for it, too. I would say definitely arrogance. Their own hubris, right? Like, you know, they think they are the best, and that's where they, you know, that's where their downfall lies, is because sometimes they do make mistakes, you know, they're very capable of making mistakes, and when they do, it usually is fucking pretty detrimental to their overall being.
Atmosphere.
Necron
an
overlords.
observation of one who has never traveled space. The stars do not wink at us. They burn. They are unlidded eyes boring into us with their gaze. The cryptic astromancer, scion of the Saltec dynasty, Oricon the diviner. Across the various courts of the Necron Empire, a name is spoken with equal scorn and reverence, as many seek the divinations of this legendary cryptech. From the time long before our species stood upright, Trazyn and Oricon roamed the galaxy, born into a galaxy millions of years ago. But who are they now? What journey have they endured up to the 41st millennium? Their story begins over 60 million years ago.
And I think the interesting thing too about both of these characters is, excuse me, they awoke much earlier before any of their other Necron counterparts did, which obviously allowed them to, like, you know, do a lot of shit in between the time of, like, you know, the original fucking, you know, War in Heaven and obviously the modern 40k environment, right? They've been around that entire time. I'm not sure exactly when they awoke, but it's millions of years before any of the others. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure. Like at least millions of years, maybe hundreds of thousands of years, but I'm thinking millions at least, right? Trey, the one who can wink, isn't he? Also, he also no physical sensations, so painting could be a hobby, cooking not so much. True. Watch and find out. True. Fair enough.
At the very edge of the galaxy, inside the cold and distant region,
I guess it's literally gonna say, isn't it? Yeah, when they wake up. Fair
sentient
enough.
life had risen up. Amongst the dirt and filth, a humanoid race had evolved to the apex of their world, a planet filled with fascinating and
Not that
deadly
long ago?
creatures
Okay.
that roamed the
We'll see.
vast deserts. The Necron
I'm
tier,
probably massively
a
overthinking.
race
Let's
so
see.
similar and yet so different from humanity. The Necron tier created a complex and rich society. They spread across their world, building bastions and realms that would make us shudder in their enormity and grandeur. Advancements in technology flowed from these gifted people. They delved into the darkest corners of science and engineering, unlocking the very secrets
Yes,
of the
Thunder Warriors.
galaxy.
That's fucking
The
crazy.
Necron-tier people were ambitious.
That's actually nuts.
And had that innate will to dominate.
It's like, where does he get this
and
shit from, you know?
But this drive did not come from a place of excitement and adventure.
Just
It
in your
came
RimWorld
from
mods? Yeah, that's always a fun time.
For the millions of years it took the Necron
I did
tier
that
to
recently as
evolve,
well, not gonna lie.
the species have been dealt an awful hand, as their world suffered under
As a
the
Fulgrim
deadly
clone?
grip
What the
of
fuck?
unfiltered radiation. Assailed at every moment by ionizing solar winds and intense radiation storms, the Necron tier suffered greatly. Life for the Necron tier was a short, painful experience, baking under the light of an unforgiving star. Cancers and radiation sickness were commonplace in Necron tier society. Imagine living your whole life, constantly on the edge, as you await the day that you know your death is coming, and there is
It almost makes me think, imagine like, you know, you're able to travel to other planets, right? You're multi-planetary at this point as a civilization, right? And these goddamn, you know, they can't figure out a cure to cancer. The Necron tier can't figure out a cure to cancer. You know what I'm saying? Isn't that kind of nuts? With all their technology, with all everything they have, they can't fucking, you know, they can't get over their own like defect, I guess, at this point. I guess because it would become congenital after fucking, you know, obviously generations of that radiation, you know, so it would be definitely congenital. But you'd think once they move to other planets, you wouldn't be able to kind of get over that shit a little bit, you know, at this point. It's more that they evolved to only live to like 25. That's fair. Oh, the DNA is the problem. I guess because eventually, like, again, generationally, their DNA would be like completely fucking twisted if they were just irradiated 24/7 by their sun, right? They die from cancer on their homeworld. Yeah, like it's their sun that's fucking them up, right? So I guess, yeah, like genetic, like if it's completely genetic and it's not even like the case of like, you know, generationally you can't be cured even if you're away from your home planet. That's kind of nuts. Yeah, it's the sun, I'm pretty sure they said there. Their sun just bakes them, essentially, I think was the quote. Not exactly verbatim, but
you know your death is coming, and there is nothing you can do about it.
of course.
Death was a release from this painful existence that was the life of the Necron tier. The dead had achieved their glory and had fulfilled their purpose, and now had the sweet release of death. The Necron tier venerated them. Their myths and legends formed around entities inspired by aspects of death, suffering, and power. As if life could not be punishing enough for the average person, Necron tier society was a reflection of its harsh environment, extremely hierarchical. To be a ruler, a Pharaon or Ferak, was akin to becoming a god. These great dynasties were the pillar, the
I see.
excellence, the fulcrum in which everything would be built around. The common people were the branches on the fire of
I see where the arrogance comes from now. So everybody has a god complex that's in charge.
Their values was reflected in their obsession
Quite
with
literally.
death. Great tomb complexes were constructed for the various dynasties. To put yourself before these palaces of death, you would be daunted by their size.
Just pointing out,
and
it's because their son that was all the time being devoured by Nightbringer.
Cruel son,
I'm not too sure what that is. Does it explain that in this?
A dirt mound would be considered a luxury. Most
They pretty quickly got
dying
quarantined there by
unremembered
old
and
ones on their
forgotten
home
in a
system.
society obsessed with those who had already passed. For all its wonder and advancement, the Necrontyr way of life was harsh, crippling disparity between the powerful and the powerless. Cancers and radiation sickness running rampant through millennia of sacrifice and innovation.
Yeah, so I can definitely like kind of understand, like I guess like if it is the case of like generationally over like millennia, obviously there's species evolving on that planet. You know, I can definitely see how like at that point your DNA is the problem, as you guys pointed out there. That's, yeah, Gallo pointed that out. DNA is the problem. Your DNA is just like absolutely twisted. You know when you play like Fallout 3 and like Moria Brown fucking like you make the Wasteland Survival Guide for her and you get that fucking perk because you got irradiated. That's basically what it is, you know what I'm saying? But like over the course of thousands of years. But also, just don't throw random facts out that will be explained in this history. That's fair. That's fair. Nightbringer is one of the Catan. I gotcha. Okay.
Through millennia of sacrifice and innovation, the Necrontyr finally
Hey there,
sailed
Caustic. How
to
you
the
doing?
stars, creating spacefaring vessels to explore the galaxy.
Chat is very chatty.
Generations upon
That's good, though.
generations spread across thousands of worlds. The ruling dynasties conquered and expanded their realms. The Infinite Empire was a titanic conglomerate of power, all centralized under one, a silent king. Hope had existed within the stars for the Necrontyr, finally reaching worlds that did not suffer under the constant radiation their species had suffered through. But after millennia, with all their research and innovations, they hit a dead end. The Necrontyr's DNA was irrevocably damaged.
I see, there it is,
Condemned
okay.
To suffer the cancers and the
They have
growths
to, you're
of
right.
eternity. Generations upon generations of exploration and new Necrontyr born far away from their homeworld had forged these vast realms, each controlled by the numerous powerful dynasties. But in a society that rewarded power and greed, the ties of unity were thin, and so the Necrontyr suffered the worst kind of plague for centuries: war. The Necrontyr, known as Trazyn and Orokin, were born in a time of cold and hot war. The paranoia, the scheming, the conflict was daily life.
That's
Spread
interesting.
across-
So like they were born in a time of cold and hot war. So like, you know, at war but not at war, you know what I'm saying? Literally like that's an interesting time period. Yeah, like the scheming they say, like the Game of Thrones like level intrigue. Very, very like like I love how there's books like that, how that's a whole like aspect in 40K as well. Like for people that are into that type of thing, you know, you have that whole like espionage kind of like take on things as well. And the Necron tier, I guess at this point, we're very, very much into that. That's a very good way to put it. That's props to Amber King for putting that one out.
Scheming. The conflict was daily life. Spread across the stars, the Necron dynasties had begun to fracture. And
They had their own
splinter from
space
the rule of
expansion,
their
that's
silent
true.
King. Civil
Would be
war
very difficult to
flared
do that
within
with a
the
short
ever-fracturing
lifespan.
society. The greedy and powerful dragged in the ordinary people into their petty wars. The ruling Triarch Council could see the collapse on the horizon and chose a path they felt could unite their people once more. A common enemy, the Old Ones. An ancient and highly technological and physically advanced intelligent species. The children that were Trazyn and Orokin were born in the aftermath of the cataclysmic war known as the War in Heaven. The story was told to the infants born into luxury inside the great fortresses of their dynasties. The immortal Old Ones had refused to save their people and cure them of their diseases. They refused to share the secrets of immortality. The Triarch Council's War in Heaven united the great dynasties, They were going to take the secrets from the Old Ones, but they were defeated at every turn, outmaneuvered and overwhelmed. Scores of generations lived and died in the service of an unwinnable war.
Goddamn.
And many Necrontyr dynasties would have gladly sued for peace with the Old Ones if the ruling Triarch had permitted it.
Interesting.
The Necrontyr were pushed back to their homeworld, billions crammed onto the overpopulated surface. The Necrontyr and the dynasties had lost nearly everything they had gained from generations upon generations of work. It would be under the Necrontyr's cruel sun.
I will say it's very fucked to think of like a stellar empire on that scale being like completely pushed back onto like only their home planet, you know? Because you're talking billions of people. That's still obviously an impressive amount. But to think of like, you know, just how much more galactically spanning they would have had. And now that has been completely eradicated and or, you know, everybody has refugeed back to the capital because that's all you have. It's just a very, very fucked concept to think about in like the scale of galactic war, I guess, you know, like if you ever play like Stellaris, I guess, that's a great representation, a great game for the sci-fi setting, I think, just in general for sci-fi LARP, I guess, if you want to call it that. Because it has like those types of mechanics in it, right? So it's just it's very fucked to like hear stories of that and think about that.
Generations of work. It would be under
and to know that they were
Necrontyr's
born during this time period
once
too.
Again, that Trazyn and Oricon grew, waking every morning and following
Before and
the
after the deal with the
Necrontyr's
Catan, that's right.
of checking for cancers every day, waiting for the day they knew death was coming. Trazyn, scion of the Nihalak dynasty, was born into comfort and luxury. The Nihalak dynasty at their height had vast treasure worlds, filled with the wealth plundered from lost civilizations. A dynasty that flaunted its wealth, and yet defended it with a miser's zeal. Trazyn grew under the tutelage and culture of this great house, rising to the role of scribe and chief archivist, overseeing the mummification of Necrontyr pharaohs. Trazyn spent his life at the royal court of the Silent King, recording the legends, the history and the stories. He buried great kings and queens amongst finery and inside behemoth tombs. Imagine witnessing these greatest moments, the greatest feats and culture of your civilization, its beauty. History requires two parties, the historian and their audience. And the Necrontyr Trazyn of the Nihalak dynasty reveled in playing both parts.
That's a cool line to describe him. Yeah, like you need, you know, two parties, the history and their audience. That's pretty true, I think, right? Like the historian and their audience. You know, obviously, like you have to have somebody there to explain it, right? But you also need somebody there to appreciate. You need somebody to appreciate it. I know later on in lore, I'm pretty sure, like he actually, Trazyn actually fucking like invites like certain individuals to like come view his works. You know what I'm saying? Because I think it's just because he wants to be like recognized that he's done that type of shit. You know, like he's a historian and he's done his due diligence and like collecting all these things. And he wants people to appreciate that he's done it, but he, you know, it's also just kind of fuck that he has at the same time, you know? I think that's like hilarious to me. Yeah, he loves showing off his museum. Yeah, he's totally like proud of it, you know? Like he's super happy about it, which is like hilarious to me.
Of the Nihalak dynasty reveled in playing both parts. Yet for all his renown and reverence at court, one was a constant thorn of an annoyance in his side. Oricon, scion of the Sautek dynasty. To be a Sautek was to breathe the life of a warrior. Martial combat and strategy were sacred and were pillars of their culture. Oricon, perhaps unlike Trazyn, did not fit so neatly into the ideals of his elders, for Oricon had been born weak in body. Martial training was forced upon him as he grew, training within
weak
the
for a
immortal
Necron
warrior
physically.
temple. But for the young Orokin, it would be
Hold on, I just gotta ask: are like the Necrons like a physically? By the sounds of it, right? Having like cancers and growths and shit, it doesn't sound like they're a very physically like strong, physically fit race. So you gotta imagine like the burn to be like called you're like unfit, even as like Necron standards go. You know what I'm saying? Like that's pretty fucked up. You know, like that's kind of a burn. You know. And obviously this guy's like getting forced through it, even though he's clearly not cut out for it. I feel like Orokin might grow up a little salty here, I won't lie. Think unfit Tau? Oh god. It's cool how he actually invites people to his museum. Does he just like straight up send an invitation? Are you allowed to like decline? Or like if you decline, does he come and like find you? You know what I mean? Tau-El, true. Tau-El.
Within the Immortals Warrior Temple. But for the young Orokin, it would be his mind where his strength lay, and so he was permitted to pursue the path of a cryptech. The very scientific fundamentals opened to Orokin, as he studied within the cryptech conclaves, mastering his understanding of science and technology on a level that would astound us. But out of years of study, he specialized in the astromatic discipline, delving into the mysteries of time itself. The future became his obsession, an outlook that brought him into conflict with one in particular at the royal court, Trazyn. The two Necrontyrs squabbled and clashed.
So he basically becomes a Time Lord, essentially.
The pettiest of squabbles that a life in nobility allowed. But everything would change with the words.
Damn it, we lost. Hey, Battle Chicken, how you doing?
The Necrontyr were about to face their most defining moment.
The Necrontyr aren't the same as Necrons? Yeah, I know. Like, Necrontyr, if I miscalled them that. But the Necrontyr, like, yeah, you're unfit for a Necrontyr because you just, like, you know, because they're already, like, a very cancer-riddled people, have growths all over them. So to be called unfit for like a Necrontyr, that's pretty shitty, you know what I'm saying? That sucks, you know. Tau Fire Warriors can kick a human's ass. Imperial propaganda even says orcs can be stopped by holding their forearm. Listen, I'm not saying the Tau aren't capable. You know, just that they're a bit of an owl, you know. That's all. Biotransference, here we go. So this is the sick shit that happens to them.
The Silent King, Sarek, ruler of the Necrontyr Empire, presented to the royal court a discovery that would change them forever. The Catan, imprisoned by the Old Ones upon their homeworld, cursed to endure their sickly existence. The Necrontyr were locked within a cold war between the various dynasties. The new Silent King.
Does that mean we get to crack cancer jokes at the Necrontyr? I don't know about all that, but they are just like, you know.
Necrontyr from Trazyn.
Listen, amongst themselves, clearly they do it. Or clearly they did do it, I should say. Past tense, obviously. The Necrontyr don't exist, right? But, you know, clearly they you know, could be born physically weak, so I guess like it was just a thing for Necrons to call each other pussies, or not Necrons, Necrontyrs to call each other pussies. That sounds correct to me. That's basically what we just heard, right? Like he was supposed to get martial training, he was awful at it. They're just like, fine, you know, like get the fuck out of here, you know what I'm saying? Like that's basically what they did. You're allowed to go do other pursuits because you suck at this, is what they basically said.
Their future was bleak. All Necrontyr from Trazyn and Orokin in high nobility to the lowly commoner, they were angry.
I don't think it was not because he like had cancer. Like the thing was, it wasn't because he had cancer. It was just because he just physically sucked. Even as far as a Necrontyr goes, with all of their like already shit like physical malformities. That's what I was saying. Let's be clear on that.
In high nobility to the lowly commoner, they were angry. They were the Necrontyr. They were destined
the common
to
people were angry
to escape the hell that they had been born into. It was at this zenith of hate and pain that the Necrontyr detected a mysterious anomaly orbiting their cursed star. With their advanced technology, they could see something was wrong. Something seemed to be feeding upon their star, draining its energy. They had found life. Something beyond anything they had seen before. The power of these starborn creatures was incredible. The raw energy of stars made animate, and the Necrontyr called them the Khitan, or star gods in their own tongue. The Khitan was spread across areas larger than whole planets. Their very thoughts and consciousness clashed with the material universe. Some would say it was the collective hatred of an entire species that drew these star gods to their world, but the truth would forever remain a mystery. Whispers began to...
It's kind of fucked to think like of a physical in quotation marks entity that is like just that massive in its being, you know, just that like huge on an interstellar scale, and it's just one collective entity. And it makes you think too, like, what was their place within the universe, especially when you consider like the warp at this time. Now obviously like the war in heaven still going on, I guess, in a sense at this point, right? And it hasn't even got catastrophically bad yet to a point, but like how do these things coexist with the warp? Are they like, you know, they must have some psyker elements to them as well, I assume, right? It's just like crazy, you know what I'm saying? Like crazy shit. You get stuff like that in Stellaris? Yeah, you do. It's nuts. It's just like, it's mind-boggling. I really like that part of like science fiction when you get like just like astoundingly big shit like this, you know what I mean?
But the truth would forever remain a mystery. Whispers began to spread throughout Necrontyr society that these gods, their mythological history had manifested. The Necrontyr royal court constructed a device designed to communicate with these etheric beings, but with no tether to the material universe. It was like communicating with a raging inferno. They couldn't speak to these gods unless they manifested them within a material form. Some of the Necrontyr actively sought the Khitan's favor and oversaw the forging of physical shells for the Khitan to occupy. Cast from the living metal.
Considering the Votan speak of living nebulas at the center of the galaxy makes you think maybe they still exist somewhere. That's true.
Cages, and a new state of consciousness awakened.
Because you got to think, like, if they're literally considering them as gods, like, you know, the Emperor is obviously not considered a god, quote unquote, but he himself can already make himself appear how he wants to appear to you, right? Does that make sense? Like, he changes his perception of himself to fit your needs in a sense, to what he wants you to see. So to a god, like, it's all about like interpretation in a sense, and maybe the Necrontyr at this point, like, what were they interpreting this thing as? I guess it's a very interesting, like, you know, idea, I suppose, because like as assuming, like, you know, that's a theory. Maybe they do still exist somewhere. The Votan, you know, maybe could see this or view this as something completely different than the Necrontyr did, right? It's just an interesting concept, you know. Because in the modern 40k universe, obviously they don't exist. Would anyone even know what the fuck, you know, one looked like if they did see it, you know? It's just interesting.
To these cages, and a new state of consciousness.
Maybe they do. I don't know if they do or not. I should say.
And all the other Necrontyr
I haven't heard of them existing yet.
It must have been incredible to see. To witness something so powerful would fill anyone with fear and reverence. The Khitan began to enjoy these new forms, and over time they began to slowly shift, resembling the mythological gods of death.
They're Pokemon for the Necrons, yeah.
Worshipped for generations.
They got fucking sharded, yeah.
He perhaps felt more
sharded. I was gonna say they got fucking
appreciation.
Prisoned, didn't they?
Artistry of these godlike beings' forms. As a scribe, he had the responsibility to record the very words of gods. Perhaps even being there, the Silent King Zarek informed the court of a proposition from the Star Gods. The Catan Mephet-Ran came to Zarek and whispered to him about the Catan story, how they had been hunted by the cruel Old Ones, and that they desired vengeance. Mephet-Ran offered Zarek immortality for the Necrontyr. No longer would they have to suffer in the fear of looming death by cancerous growths. No longer would they live such short, miserable lives. They could claim the galaxy, like their forebearers, and take vengeance on the Old Ones, who had killed and imprisoned them. The Catan's charisma was astounding.
Oh, they just spoke too many good promises.
Offer. Only one
their charisma
spoke in protest to this seemingly generous offer.
These motherfuckers got like speech checked. Like, you know, when you're like, oh man. They literally got like a charisma 8 like speech check here, like speech 90 speech check. Succeed. Okay, yes, we'll do exactly what you ask. Yeah, we'll step into the furnaces. If it sounds like a too good of an offer to be true, it probably is at this point. Like, it's literally like, oh yes, they're so generous. Like, why, you know, why would we say no? God damn it.
One voice spoke in protest to this seemingly generous offer. Oricon. As an astromancer cryptech, Oricon's power gave him insight into the future. The various paths and webs that
convinced Lake Atlantis to go home, true.
The one the Necrontyr faced. Oricon could see no future in which Mephet-Ran's words held true. The proud scion of the Sautek dynasty, despite being weak of body, had their spirit, and rebelled against the idea of fully trusting these so-called gods. The dissenting voice was drowned out. Zarek had made his decision, and how could he not? Could you endure the shame of defeat? Could you wake every morning patting down your body for the first sign of disease? Could you turn away from immortality? Across their homeworld, Necrontyr painted in red, once executioners in sacrifice for their old gods, now dragged the people in their billions for their new ones. Trazin, the now old, hunched over elder, who needed his cane just to move, was taken from his library in chains. Oricon the cryptech dragged from his temple in chains, protesting and raging against the madness they were committing.
Interesting.
The two Necrontyr struggled against their bindings. The willing and the unwilling were going to
So yeah, like it was basically the case of like, you know, the upper government, upper authority, the Silent King, obviously at this point. Yeah, he basically decides like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do. Anyone who disagrees, guess what? You're getting fucking bound and we're bringing you in there. It doesn't matter. Everyone's doing this. We're doing this collectively as a species. It's pretty fucked up, I will say. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not having a choice to do that. But obviously, you know, this is 40K. Every society is authoritarian to some degree. There's no such thing as a democracy or you know, oligarchy even. I mean, I guess you could consider the Imperium almost oligarchic in a sense, but it's definitely more like imperialistic for sure. Like I will say.
Their bindings, the willing and the unwilling were going to experience apotheosis, whether they liked it or not. Billions of Necrontyr made an exodus, with swords at their back, towards enormous towers, whose fire lit up the night sky. From the young to the old, even the children were pushed like a line towards hell itself. Some of the sick and dying Necrontyr, riddled with disgusting cancerous growths, died in the sand, stepped over by the billions marching. Trazin and Oricon were right there, in the middle of it. their respective dynasties pushed either by greed or chains. Above these towering
I see.
furnaces, the Khitan flew above, creatures that resembled their old gods. It must have been a nightmare to witness such an imposing...
The way they will become Necrons will matter
As
later.
Haakon stepped closer, they could feel the heat. They likely heard the screams.
Watching stuff
as
like Brookie's
thousands by
video
the
makes you
minute
think it was
entered the
entirely
fire
voluntary. It was not.
furnaces.
Yeah, that's kind of the sense
And
I
then
got.
It was their
Interesting to
turn.
know that it like
Trazyn
completely
and
wasn't.
Haakon pushed into the fire. Their skin and bones immolated. Pain flushed through every nerve within their body. Their screams were drowned out by the roar of the fire. This would be the last physical sensation they would ever feel. Trazyn, scion of the Nihalak dynasty, and Haakon, scion of the Sautek dynasty, died. The scribe and chief archivist and the astromancer Cryptek were no more. Within the roaring fires of the biotransference chamber, all that they were before was harvested, condensed into information. Their personalities, hopes and dreams, their quirks, all data. Within this chamber of
That's an
fire
interesting
and
way of
pain,
putting it.
a skeletal parody of the Necrontyr formed from the living metal necrodermis. The information of Trazyn and Haakon imprinted upon these new forms. Cecily...
See, the way he's explaining this, I think is it's a much more nuanced way of explaining it than just like, you know, their souls got like taken and kind of uploaded into like the Necrons in a sense, right? The new bodies. Saying that their personalities became data in a sense. This is a very like, that's a very like interesting way to put it. You know what I'm saying? It's a very, it makes you think, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why they're as quirky as they are. That's why they are the way that they are. It's because it's literally just like data at its rawest form taken out of their bodies and literally just imprinted and then put into something new, their new body. It's very interesting, yeah. It's literally a transference into their new bodies, yeah, into their new bodies, yeah. But the way it's done, right? It's not just like it's their souls, it's data. That's the way it's being described here. That's a very good way to put it, I think.
Trazyn and Haakon imprinted upon these new forms, settling into their cores. The two marched out from the fire. They were no longer Necrontyr.
Is it bad I started laughing when he said the children got led away? Oh.
There exists a state in which all...
It's a little bit bad, but that's okay.
And all is cold and silent. There are no wants, no wars, no squabbles. You may call this state death if you wish, but that is a misnomer. Death is but the ending of life, and that is only a means to an end. That end is purity. The time...
Good narration is key for any history. That's very true.
And unchanging. Trazyn and Haakon had been changed fundamentally. They had become immortal. No sickness or age would blight them. They had discarded the weakness of flesh. They would never again suffer under their cruel sun and experience the dreaded cancerous growths. But yet something was wrong. It was like a part of them was missing. It was cold and silent within. They were lesser. As they looked to the sky, they saw the truth of the horror that had just happened to their entire species. Above each furnace they saw the swelling forms of the Khitan, gorging themselves in the life energy and emotions of an entire species. Since their transformation from pure energy to material forms, the Khitan had awakened a sense of hunger, something that feeding on stars couldn't satisfy.
I see.
The Khitan had developed and acquired a new taste. They fed on the negative emotions of sentient life, and the wailing death cries of an entire species was a banquet. The Necrontyr had been deceived, their very souls taken, placed within Trazyn, Haakon, and every Necron had been embedded protocols granting Zarek programmed loyalty, and it was only those of high rank within the various dynasties who could comprehend the horror. For those who had no importance or noble blood, they had become simply mindless automatons. Zarek now understood the crashing weight of what he had agreed to. Swelled with the power of an entire species, the Catan ordered Zarek to prepare for war. Vengeance had been promised.
Thank you for your soul.
And it was going to be delivered at the steps of the Old One.
Soul mukbang, pretty much. Jesus.
Trazyn and Orokin, under the command protocols, headed to war.
This is done really well, though.
Participating in the most titanic clashes the galaxy had ever seen. A war that saw the Necrons and Catan ravage the galaxy.
My brain, I feel a bit of shadow of what it meant, hungering.
Under the feasting of
I feel not, but the hungering of the feeling.
The Necrons
to feel anything.
Expanded, conquering and constructing an empire that eclipsed the one of their ancestors. That after countless years, the resentment of their betrayal had never diminished. It only festered. It was a war that began in betrayal.
Which it should, to be honest. Like, to have that happen to your race, to be conscious and to know that it happened, even if you agreed with it, I'm sure after you figured out what was happening, yeah, you'd probably be pretty goddamn salty over it. Or about it, I should say. Like, I feel like you would definitely want to take your vengeance at its earliest convenience once you can. Yeah, and that's, I believe, why the Catan were eventually pokeballed, as it were, I think is how it was described.
It was a war that began in betrayal for the Necrons, and it will be one that ended in it too. The Catan had promised everything: eternal life, revenge and power, but they had taken what it meant to be alive, to be Necron tier. No new Necron tier would ever be born again. They were finite to gods that treated them like ants. Trazyn, Orokin and Zarek hated them, and vengeance would be theirs.
A great sleep.
The woods decay.
Just in time for vengeance. Hey, you know, how you doing?
The vapors weep their burthen to the ground. Man comes and tills the field and lies beneath. And after many a summer dies the swan. Me, only cruel immortality. How can my nature longer mix with thine? Coldly, thy rosy shadows bathe me. Cold are all thy lights, and cold my wrinkled feet upon thy glimmering thresholds, when the steam floats up from those dim fields about the homes of happy men that have the power to die, and grassy barrows of the happier dead. Release me and restore me to the ground. Thou seest all things. Thou wilt see my grave. Thou wilt renew thy beauty, morn by morn.
Immortality.
Good little quote to put in there.
Our life is consumed by the escape of death. We desire to create things
or X script, I guess it would be.
Piece of us on after death. Family, religion, art.
We be sleeping in tombs now. Yeah, time to go to sleep.
Pain.
It's time to take the long nap.
What does it truly mean to be immortal? What does it cost? Only do you appreciate something's value when it is taken away. How can my nature longer mix with thine? Be jealous of happy men that have the power to die. For Trazyn and Orokin, they had lived a life in a society built around the expectation and the anticipation of death. In a way it was revered. Even their gods were built around the mythology of those who had passed. But now they were Necrons. Death was not a sure thing anymore. When their bodies were destroyed, the Necrons'
they just
simply returned
they reform,
to their
don't they?
monoliths,
Yeah.
where a metal prison would be constructed. waiting for its host. The cost of their immortality showed in other ways too. Innate functions such as breathing or a beating heart were gone, and those like Trazyn and Oricon, who had retained most of their personalities, sometimes caught themselves in a panic, unable to catch a breath when none existed. Tricks and fears of the mind. The Necron nobility knew what Zarek had led them into, but they were bound by protocols to follow his orders.
It's interesting to know that they still or not still, but that they actually had problems like phantom limb syndrome almost in a way, but you have a panic attack because suddenly you can't breathe. You remember you have to, but you can't because you don't have a goddamn body. You don't have lungs. You don't have anything, right? It's just it's kind of like a freaky thing to have happened to you, and I imagine to those that those that had that happen to them in chains, and obviously even those that agreed to it, it would be very fucking traumatizing to be in your body 1 second and then be in essentially a metal body entirely the next, after the most intense fucking pain you could imagine. I imagine very traumatic as an event overall.
Had led them into, but they were bound by protocols to follow his orders. A king who was in turn threatened by the weight of a god's fury if he resisted. The sentient Necrons, Trazyn, Oricon, Zarek, and the ruling dynasties hated the Ghitan, hated how Mephet Ran had deceived them, hated the truth of immortality. They hated being subservient to alien masters. A plan was conceived over countless years in the dark. Zarek plotted his revenge and his freedom for his people. As the war in heaven ravaged the galaxy,
at least he's doing something, I suppose.
Had become so powerful that they had begun to war with each other.
Of course.
At the height of this chaos,
I like how when a species when a species on the galactic scale dominates everyone else, what happens at the end of that? They start dominating each other again because there's nothing left to do. I'm sure they get bored. They have all that military equipment. They just decimated the Necron tier. They're like, ah, fuck. What do we got to do now? Besides fight each other. It's the only thing to keep us entertained at this point. It's not hard to see why the warp is such a fucked up place now. You know what I'm saying?
War with each other. It was at the height of this chaos that Zarek unleashed weapons so dangerous it would scar the galaxy and time forever.
Add to that, each time a Necron dies and is reconstructed, their minds degrade more and more. Fuck.
Star gods, shattering them.
So I imagine over time that could be extremely detrimental.
Gods were imprisoned, used as a conduit.
Dominate each other? No, that'll be the Eldar. Fair enough.
The betrayers had been betrayed. It was with this final act that Zarek removed his command protocols. Trazyn, Oricon, and the others would never again be under the forceful command of a silent king. The galaxy was ravaged, and in the wake of the Ghitan's defeat, one thing had become clear to those who delved into the mysteries of time. Oricon and the other cryptex foresaw the rise and dominance of the Eldari, and knew that they could not stand against them. But they knew that the time of the Eldar would pass, as did the time for all born into flesh.
Man, that'd be so I know it's gonna be so disappointing for the Necrons when they wake up and they realize that these Eldar motherfuckers are still just kicking around, It's like, goddamn, did we not set the timer correctly? What's happening here? Why the fuck are they still here, Honestly, I would just go back to sleep, you know what I'm saying? Just wait them out even more. Surely, after enough time's passed, there won't be any issue. But then you got to think too, if you wait long enough, think about what you could be dealing with when you wake up. You could potentially be dealing with the Tyranids after enough time, or chaos potentially. Assuming, the baddest of the bad, the worst of the worst, starts taking over. That would be much harder to contend with, I feel arguably, than the humans ever could be, for example. If it's just the fucking chaos comes in force and starts taking shit over again, that's pretty awful. Or the Tyranids. Yeah. You wake up as a Necron, lord, and you're just like, oh yeah, fucking, there's just a ravenous bunch of fucking. Do they fight each other even? Because like, there's no biomass to consume, right? How does that work? Have Necrons ever fought the Tyranids before? Like, I'm actually curious about that. Yeah, the Necrons fight Tyranids, do they? Okay. But do the Tyranids, like the Tyranids can't break them down at all though, can they? Like consume them like biomass, like they could any other species though. Is that correct, or can they still do that? The Tyranids, yeah, because I imagine they don't really get much from killing Necrons. You know what I'm saying? The Necrons are a direct counter. That's exactly kind of what I was thinking, actually. Okay, like thinking about it, yeah, there's nothing to consume. There's no biomass to like eat. Bugs are hungry and there's nothing to eat.
Would pass, as did the time.
They avoid tomb worlds? Interesting.
Flesh. Like their ancestors before them, the Necrons constructed.
Some of the tomb worlds do have life on them. Yeah, that's true. Because the tombs could be literally on any world, depending, right?
Trezin,
at random,
Oricon,
seemingly.
And all the other Necrons entered into stasis crypts, the various worlds held under the noble dynasties. They were captured in a moment of unbelievably slowed down time.
They will actively try and avoid them? That's cool. That's actually kind of cool.
The galaxy spun around for over 60 million years. Civilizations rose and fell. History, dramas, and moments played out upon the surface of thousands of planets, unaware of the sleeping metal skeletons that lie beneath.
Big counter, but it's not 100% win for them every time.
On the world of Solemnace, a tomb stirred.
I assume they could still get like overwhelmed very easily.
Trezin of the Nihalak dynasty awoke.
Depending, of course.
He was surrounded by a universe that was unfamiliar to him. Parallel to his stirring, on the world of Mandragora, a certain astromancer cryptek too stirred from his tomb. Oricon. The two Necron had awoken early, millennia before their predestined time of awakening.
Okay, 1,000.
The Eldari had fallen. The galaxy was overrun with Xenos only seen within the deepest channelings of the cryptek temples. There was no great war, no great mission, no Pharaon to serve. The two Necron found that they had time, a meaningless concept to an immortal, but an advantage against those who still slept.
Interesting.
What would you do with limitless time? What would you explore? What objectives would you set? What would be your magnum opus? Trezin and Oricon began to craft their great objective, each manifested from the ideas that had formed from the time of flesh, and it would be the conclusion of those ideas that reignited the greatest rivalry in the galaxy.
In the 20,000s?
Oricon paired the greeting with a polite bow. It achieved the proper depth and angle for a greeting of equal colleagues, but remains just shallow enough to communicate contempt.
Astromancer,
said Trezin, returning the bow with a nod. The proper
Trust me, bro. The video 2 minutes ago.
Guests on his world, serving as both welcome and a warning. It was, consequently, identical to a dueling bow.
Had you announced your arrival, I would have arranged an honor guard. A figure of your reputation should not be wandering here alone.
Kind and proper, my colleague. Kind and proper.
Oricon moseyed sideways, insectile.
But I would not trouble you, especially since, for a planetary overlord, you are often away from Solemnace.
They were circling each other now, pretense dissolving. They'd long been rivals, back to the times of flesh, and Trezin had frequently imagined what it would be like to land a blow on the diviner.
Wow.
Oricon's movement unnerved him. The curse of biotransference had made parodies of them all, but none more extreme than he and Oricon. While Trezin had been remade into a hunched, hooded thing, a scholar eternally at his work, Orokin's slight frame had twisted to reflect the soul within. He was all things quick and venomous. His face and headdress recalled a hooded serpent. His curled tail, segmented back armor, and spindly limbs echoed the waste scorpions of the old capital.
I won't lie though, Orokin is coming out looking like a badass compared to Trazyn. I won't lie. Like he's coming out and he's giving like some villain vibes, hardcore, and he looks badass. I won't lie. Like I'm assuming he doesn't have a model. I know Trazyn has a model. Does Orokin have a model? Like a miniature, I should say. Because he does look pretty fucking sick. I won't lie. Like they both do. That's awesome. That's pretty sweet. I won't lie. Damn. I might have to look into that, how that looks, because like he does look pretty impressive.
And
there's a story about a female Necron who's waking up as a Tyranid force is invading the world she's on. She's also having to run simply due to the sheer amount of Nids attacking her. Yeah, I imagine, like, if you're just like, you know, I don't even know, like, I guess like there is instances of there just being like one Necron by themselves or a few Necrons at a time just waking up, right? Due to malfunction or whatever have you. So yeah, I mean, in that case, yeah, you have to run. Like, there's no way you can fight Tyranids, like, you know, with a limited force. It just doesn't work that way. Trazyn's getting a new model, by the way. That's awesome.
Spindly limbs echoed the waste scorpions of the old capital.
I'll have to look into that at some point.
Orbs ran down his spine, swirling with the cloudy energy.
Even if you can find a link, post that in the Discord or something. That'd be cool to see.
The foresight the crypteps claimed to possess gleamed with haunting malice.
Thievery has been
Orokin got a new one?
Hand back
Trazyn
the trinket
sold.
and perhaps we can continue your research.
Orokin got a W on Trazyn on that one, true.
I of all beings can understand the wish to covertly acquire.
Understand?
Orokin snapped.
To understand is not in you, Trazyn. You're a bird building a nest with shiny things. A child with a rock collection. You want things simply to have them. Their true meaning, their use, is lost on you.
Hurtful?
Chided Trazyn. He dipped his obliterator so it pointed at the device in Orokin's hand.
Even if true, I see no reason why that allows you to steal my things.
You stole it first, from the Amunos dynasty.
The Amunos dynasty is naught but inert metal now. You can't steal from the dead. That's called archaeology. The point is to memorialize, learn, study what came before us. We look to the past to navigate the future.
I prefer to look to the future.
Why are the Necrons here Russian? Surely Trey has a Victorian British accent.
There were
I don't know. It's a bit of a weird casting choice, let's say, for Trazyn here, but I don't think it's bad. I think he's doing a pretty good job with it, but definitely a bit of a not what I was expecting choice for it, is what I'll say. But is what it is. Is what it is. We roll with it. You know what I'm saying? I hope this video shows a long-ass court session between these two. Oh, yeah, I guess we'll have to see, eh? I mean, we're only 40 minutes into it, so maybe. Games Workshop is pretty biased with their own IP. Same reasons normal Marines win almost always against Chaos Marines. I just had a stroke there. Sorry, that was on me.
Sure.
Said Orokin.
For instance, there
Battlefleet
were
Gothic
27
Trazyn voice is
times
W.
I could
It
have
is.
attacked just now.
That one was very
but
good.
None would have got past your guard.
Indeed.
But 28 is a slaying blow.
Stop.
Trazyn pleaded. The ancient pipes shattered. Bowls that once held dream tar husbanded in front of temple gardens, scattered broken amongst the feet of the Lich Guard, who froze mid-step, torn between the command to advance and the one that prevented them from damaging the artifacts. Orokin put his shoulder against a case of surgical instruments and heaved, grabbed a disintegrating scroll, and threw it across the chamber of antiques. His own warding circle of defacement. The Lich Guard halted, awaiting orders.
If you wish to treat with me, scribe,
Sneered Orokin.
come inside.
Trazyn obliged, vaulting the debris, Channeling power through his leap, his obliterator swinging down like a great hammer, it drove down on Orokin's staff, the iron clang of their meeting echoing off the walls. For
When
an
Trazyn
instant,
fights, does he
the
still have like
lodestones
his
of their weapons
hunchback?
touched,
Does he just like
sizzling
fucking
and
like
popping like power
hobble
cables
at
in
him?
water? Trazyn shoved the diviner backward with the haft of his obliterator. Then the staff swirled and clashed again. Wheeling so
yes, he
fast
does.
that they left spectral
That's
fans
awesome.
of energy in their wake.
Vandal!
Trazyn roared, thrusting his obliterator like a spear.
Can we watch
You
a
have
video
destroyed
on
objects
Trazyn
made by
after this?
craftsmen dead long before we breathed.
Depends,
Pieces
maybe,
of our past
maybe.
that can never be remade.
Orokin parried, rolling the blow upwards and leaping sideways to avoid the downward chop that followed it.
Useless things. Fetishes of vanished past.
Trazyn reversed his obliterator and slapped the staff into Orokin's side, staggering the diviner. The chronomancer backpedaled, wisps of radioactive aura twisting from the burn in his lower thorax. Trazyn came on again, his fury burning, circuits flared hot. Viscous electrofluid pumped through his systems like magma.
The infinite and the divine. So I wonder in like the timeline, like when did that fight happen? Like did they just like wake up and then they were instantly just throwing hands at each other? Like on first meeting, they're just like, oh hey, you're also awake? Get fucked, you know what I'm saying? Like, or did it take some time before they like actually realized that both were awake, you know? He would just throw a bunch of Horus Heresy World Eaters at you, Jesus. H.P.
Pleasure
Lovecraft.
to me is
Oh.
wonder, the unexplored, the unexpected, the thing that is hidden, and the changeless thing that lurks behind superficial mutability. To trace the remote in the immediate,
The goat,
the
yeah.
eternal,
Lovecraft
in the
is pretty
ephemeral,
goat.
the past in the beauty, the infinite.
Took a few hundred
finite.
years for them to both interact
These
after
are
they
to
had
me
woken
the
up. That makes
springs of
sense.
delight
That
and
makes
beauty.
sense.
To
Wasn't
achieve
like the first,
essence
like, week,
of
they're like,
real
oh my God.
externality, whether of time or space or dimension. One must forget such things as organic life, good and evil, love and hate, and all such local attributes of a negligible and temporary race called mankind have any existence at all.
Time is a weapon like any other.
Don't think that
If
either
all
really want to
else
see each other
fails,
anyway. No,
I
probably
can
not.
simply wait for my enemies to rot. It is the 30th millennium. And
They both
upon
see
the
each
world
other
of
as, like,
Solanace,
competitors almost.
2 old men bicker and squabble with all the grace of children. An
Pretty
argument
much.
that began millions of years ago echoes into the present. Engaged in a duel that, if done within the time of flesh, would have been an embarrassment beyond all proportions. Trazyn and Orokin's rivalry had been reignited. But what could possibly bring 2 of the greatest minds within their Necron race into such petty conflict? It all came down to the priority and perception of their existence within the universe. The future, the key. Something on the mind of everyone. We plan for it. We dream about it. The number of pathways and possibilities are endless. To one such as a Necron, the present has become almost meaningless in the face of the importance of the past and the future. Orokin, the now coined diviner, looks only in one direction. Why predict the future when he could reshape it? But to what
That's
end?
fair.
What ambition did this immortal cryptech desire? Ascension. To achieve the essence of real externality, whether of time or space or dimension.
That's the thing, because I obviously I don't think he can at this point. Or maybe he can. I'm not sure if he had the ability to time travel, but isn't that literally what he ends up doing? He ends up fucking with time in a sense. Obviously, I'm not really looking for spoilers. No one like giving any hardcore spoilers, but I'm pretty sure like I just don't know if that's like a thing that he he was always able to do, or if this is like a technology that he discovers after he wakes up. You know what I'm saying? An ability that he discovers after he wakes up. Because isn't that a thing? Like they start like straight up fucking with like the timelines and stuff, or trying to, almost, in a sense, or their shenanigans against each other meddle with certain things. I'm not too sure. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's a wrong interpretation. Maybe I just need to watch.
Whether of time or space or dimension,
he can time travel casually. Okay.
As organic
casual
life,
time travel.
Good and evil, love and hate. Oricon, within his deepest meditations, had discovered something incredible. A state in which he transformed himself.
To be fair, a week to Necron is decades to centuries. True.
Becoming almost a spirit-like entity. He was free from the concerns of the material. Stars, worlds and fields of space dust smeared technicolor across the dark skies. Knowledge and information ran like rivers around him. This was the future. Oricon could see a universe in which all the Necron cast off their metal prisons and became something more. This etheric state could never be maintained for long. And the return to reality must have been a sombering experience. For the boy who was born weak to a dynasty consumed by the ideals of personal strength and martial ability, it was clear that he never quite fit in. An introverted, introspective cryptech who was lost within the study of time, annoyed by the bustling and crampedness of his home. He had been born a Necrontyr, destined to experience a cruel, slow death, riddled with cancerous growths, and even as a Necron he had lost his soul and existed within a metal prison. Perhaps it was easy to see why one who had gone through all of this would be all too eager to escape the confines of the material universe.
I could understand
to trace
that,
the
yeah.
remote in the immediate, the eternal in the ephemeral, the past in the present, the infinite in the finite. These are to me the springs of delight and beauty.
Interesting.
It was a worldview that exclusively looked forward, an ideal that fundamentally clashed with his rival, Trazyn, the now coined Infinite. They were complete opposites, one to preserve and one to predict. Trazyn's focus was to the past, to history. The universe is an enormous place. Within millions of worlds lie its wondrous creations and events.
That is a very interesting way to put it, just like how polar opposite they are, to predict versus preserve, right? One's a historian and the other is trying to like predict / change time, almost, in a sense, right? One wants to collect things and the other is like worried about changing those things to begin with, in a sense, you know? A very, very interesting concept. And like, you know, again, I feel like if two people were gonna wake up and be like any more polar opposite, like it would be these two. Like these would be the two fuckers that of course would like wake up first to be able to meddle around, you know? God damn it.
Place. Within millions of worlds.
No, I'm glad we get to get Trazyn though. These characters are awesome so far.
As a scribe and archivist, Trazyn has spent a lifetime recording the drama, the culture, and the words of his civilization. As a Necron, Trazyn had been there at the forefront of the war in heaven. He had seen the various races created by the Old Ones, their beauty and their horror. He adored watching history, wishing perhaps that he could take the moment and
there's nothing a historian would hate more than someone who can do the time paradoxes, literally. Because like, assuming you still have those artifacts to begin with, they might just be completely fucking useless now, depending on what happened, right?
Was an artificial construct.
So it completely fucks over what he's trying to do, no matter what.
Outer shell consisted of untold amounts of nano machines.
Dyson sphere, goddamn.
Prize to an overlord of the Nihalak dynasty. Trazyn began his collection. It had started with the section he loved and dreaded, the war in heaven. From the ancient Eldari to the Krog, Trazyn had captured some of the deadliest creatures in the galaxy. But trinkets and items of culture were just as important. Rare artifacts, carvings, paintings, and even towering structures made their way into the galleries of Solemnace.
What the fuck?
It was a masterpiece. It was history, and it's
I kind of vibe with Trazen. There are too many
for he truly
worlds,
believed
events,
that
stories,
it
and
was
knowledge.
our
I would love to see his
past
collection.
that
Yeah, me
shaped
too.
our future.
You have to think too, and Trazen like is one of the very few, and like this is the thing. Obviously, he's not always truthful, and he's unpredictable. I guess unpredictable. Holy fuck, unpredictable in a sense with the knowledge that he does give, with what he does say. But you have to think too, in a sense, he's the best source of knowledge in the galaxy, you know, because he's totally willing to be truthful about the history of what happened because he's such an avid historian and he's unbiased in his history in a sense. I'm sure he is biased, but he's willing to collect all of it and at least tell the story of it, right? Versus like anywhere else in the galaxy, any other race, humans, I'm sure Eldar, what have you, they're censoring information, you know. Eldar, I guess, do Eldar censor information? I guess they really don't. But the Imperium, definitely, you see that, like, the censorship of information is like what the fucking Imperium lives on, you know. That's what they do all day over there, is, you know, look for seditious material and whatnot, you know. You can't have other thoughts. The codexes are interesting, but I need to catch up on them. I've never actually, well, I don't own any of the codexes, but I should look into some of them. Trazen on his way to put the God Emperor in his display. I'm surprised he doesn't at least have like his finger bone or something like that, you know? Yeah, I'm surprised he doesn't have like a piece of the Emperor. You think he would? They definitely censor information, although not to the same extent that the Imperium does. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I was going to say, I assume every race to some degree must censor information. But the Imperium is like obviously the biggest people who do it. Biggest people, like, it's done the most in the Imperium, I should say. That's a better way to put it. With the Eldar, the problem isn't as much censor as the fact that they speak in riddles and poems so that their info can be as real as metaphor. Interesting. What the fuck? Goddamn.
Truly believed that it was our past that shaped our future, which is why during the early 30th millennium he was horrified when the intruder Oricon broke his rare collection of early Necron tier pottery.
What?
Oricon had taken years to infiltrate his rival's so-called museum in search of an artifact that would change everything.
You broke my fucking pottery.
Mysterios.
You bitch. I assume it's on from there on out.
The of antiquity be broken and crushed by the savagery of unenlightened creatures.
Oh.
For only by understanding these treasures may we conquer the future. Only we, who have broken free from the shackles of mortality and bound.
If Trazen showed up on Holy Terra, you get practically gangbanged by Custodes.
Trusted with this task.
Or his body, at least. Oh my god.
We are here on this wretched pit of a planet. Eliminate
I don't know, he's pretty sneaky, man.
As you see fit.
You don't think he'd be able to do it?
Keep the collateral damage to a minimum. With any
that was my T-Bug, I'll have your head for this.
The two Necrons
like, yeah, literally.
In the exhibit of Solemnace's galleries. Trazen had become powerful over the millennia.
Trazen just fucking nerd raged.
To the very use of selected Xenos and Necron artifacts, in which he would assure anyone he obtained through proper procedure. His weapons was equally
Eldar have this annoying tendency to talk in riddles even when they want to help.
Had been crafted with the
makes the situation worse.
Old ones, and was deadly.
Definitely makes the situation more confusing.
Foes. Paired with his ability to almost immediately transfer and assume control of any lower tier Necron, made his death a frustrating goal to achieve. Oricon was equally just as deadly. His transformation from Oricon the Necron tier to Oricon the Necron had increased his cryptic powers exponentially. All powerful and important Necrons had the gift of chronosense, able to slow time briefly internally, an incredible tool for crafting complex strategies and tactics. But as perhaps the most gifted Astromancer cryptech their species had to offer, Oricon's ability to manipulate time
Gilliman and Trazen would get along? Probably.
Able to maintain his chronosense.
I don't see why they would hate each other, to be honest.
He could send his consciousness back to himself minutes in the past, making him able to nearly control the flow of combat and negotiation. In the museum on Solemnace, their clash was a mix of parlor tricks, backhanded remarks, and devastating weaponry. What had reignited their rivalry was
Trazyn would want Guilliman so badly. Dude, fucking Trazyn would totally be outside of like Gilliman's like home with a fucking like, you know, like van that says like candy written on the side of it, dude. Like he'd totally be trying to get fucking Guilliman 100%. Like to Trazyn, Guilliman is fucking like target number one. He's the prize. Like, bro, getting a Primarch. Could you imagine a Primarch in my museum? That would be fucking amazing. Like, doesn't he already have like Spire? Not Spire. What's the fella's name that was on a Creed? Creed. He has Creed, doesn't he? Creed, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah. That's fucking crazy, dude. How the fuck does he have Creed? You know what I mean? That's insane. You crazy motherfucker. Trazyn would collect Primarchs to have a wall of them. I wouldn't be shocked if he had 2 or 11. Honestly, yeah. What if he just like busts out one of them? You know, like some shit starts going down. He's just like, yeah, by the way. Yeah, your good old daddy like told you that he got rid of these guys. Actually, he didn't tell you anything. They just don't exist, quote unquote. Yeah, I have them. He has an uncorrupted Fulgrim in his museum. How the fuck did he get that?
What had reignited their rivalry was an ancient Necron tier artifact known as the Asterium Mysterious.
A clone? Did he clone Fulgrim?
The genius datamancer Vishani.
Traded it? What the fuck?
This ancient device had been crafted as a map, leading to a treasure that was
got it from Fabius
to both the infinite and the divine. It had been acquired by Trazyn long ago, and he would most certainly assure you it was through noble means. It was a crowning piece in Trazyn's galleries, but it was so much more. It was rumored to hold the location to the Overlord Nephref the Untouched. The Necron tier said to have been immune to the sickness of radiation.
Well, Trazyn's gonna come touch him for sure.
The key to the transformation of the Necron race.
Fabius Bile, the head apothecary of the Emperor's Children, made it, then traded it for the Uncorrupted.
Desired to display.
Traded it for Uncorrupted by Chaos Gene Seed. Trazyn stole before they found their Primarch. Oh.
Precious Necron tier artifacts in the process.
Traded it, then walked into a room and put him in stasis.
Even going so far
you couldn't do anything about it. What the fuck?
The awakened Necron Council, a petty mood for an annoyed old man. The two before the awakened council argued like children, speaking over each other, exposing holes in the other's story, fighting over a tomb that's very existence was a myth. Seemed like a joke to the council, but who amongst them could really say? A consequence of the reawakening had meant their memories of the time of flesh were uncertain.
Interesting.
And all the others knew all too well the cost that biotransference and the subsequent reawakening had cost them. What the Catan had cost them. The two old Necrons were not afraid to deliver low blows. Oricon even dared to send his consciousness back multiple times throughout the debate, each time overwriting when he had had an unfavorable outburst.
What the fuck?
He resorted to reminding the council of his dynasty's wrath, should they be too biased in one way or another. He could, after all, summon Imhotep the Stormlord, a Necron of unparalleled power, strategic might, and prowess.
So not only is he like rewinding time to try to get a favorable fucking outcome against Trazyn here, he's also just like outright threatening the fucking jury that's like overseeing this procession. And like he's rewinding every time he has an unfavorable outburst. So every time he just fucking lets himself go into a rant, he's just like, oh fuck, okay, that was unsavory. Let's go back. Run that one back, you know what I'm saying? Like, goddamn, dude. Like, how do you end up losing this debate? Like, surely he doesn't, right?
Unparalleled power.
Or can try to save scum? Bro, that's literally what he's doing. What the fuck?
A crowning jewel of the Sautek dynasty. A threat not taken lightly. Haakon was many things. He was reckless, but not dull-witted. Casually admitting to an atrocity or a crime here and there, the council was disgusted.
Great quick save, bro.
They
That's
declared
like
that the Asterian Mysterios
that's some PTSD for me
belonged
right
to
now.
all Necron.
You guys have been
And
watching
thus
the Fallout
list of
stream, you see now.
rivals and enemies grew exponentially.
F5 is
The
your best
race
friend.
on Nephref's tomb had truly begun.
Stormlord, the greatest military mind in the galaxy, not to be messed with. And Orokin can just summon him, like on command.
Trazin, that damn bastard, always getting in the way, always putting his grubby fingers into the pockets of others. Orokin, in the possession of
Also,
the
guys, if you're
Asterian
enjoying the stream,
Mysterios,
hit that like button,
could
by the
not
way.
help but have lingering thoughts about how much the hunched immortal annoyed him. The way he would use his charm and careful selection of words
call
to
upon his
weasel
help, I
himself
see.
out of consequences. His very existence was frustrating. Orokin couldn't understand Trazin's mindset. The past was dead. His admiration for artifacts and culture of other primitive Xenos races. And on the other hand, Trazin's opinion of the Diviner was equally venomous, always giving his so-called predictions of the future, though Trazin knew the truth. Orokin, though a skilled astromancer, his predictions were not always flawless, and unforeseen events could change his calculations. When a vision would play out differently to his so-called prophecies, Orokin would employ his closely guarded chronomatic abilities and travel backwards in time to make sure that his prophesied future events took place exactly as he had stated.
What the
Even
fuck?
willing to go to the
What a
extreme
rat.
of shaping future events around his visions.
What the
In
fuck?
order to protect his so-called precious reputation. Always looking to the future was a mistake to Trazin. How could
Yeah.
he navigate it without the context of the past?
It's not even like the fact that he's doing that in Trazin's mind. I can understand like Trazin's reason for disliking him, but my reason for disliking like that motivation is like he's basing what he's saying and he's just telling everybody, guys, this will happen, and then he has to go back in time to make everything work around that happening just to save face, because otherwise like he's just a bullshitter straight up. And like that's the thing, because everyone knows he can fucking like do the time fuckery, right? So like he has to save face, so he's just creating so much more work for himself, like straight up. The crazy Necron Lord makes me chuckle. Yeah, dude, like he's goofy, you know what I'm saying? That's why I like the Necrons, honestly, like aspects of them, like they do just do a lot of goofy shit at times. This causes secondary effects on the timeline. Like, yeah, like, and he's also just like, he has to fuck with like everybody's shit to make that work, no doubt, right? Like, it's like also just butterfly affecting, like straight up.
How could Orokin
Wrong, crazy lord?
disregard
Oh,
the
is it?
amazing creations within the galaxy? Could someone really be such a bore? With the statement of the Awakened Council, they had declared that the Asterian Mysterios and the Tomb of Nephreth, the Untouched, belonged to all Necron. And so the war between immortals begun. Who knew how many rivals had been dragged into this race? Deep within his meditative state that took 6 years to delve into, Orokin finally found what he was looking for. He had cracked a code that only one with his level of mastery could possibly do. He had discovered a location, and it would be on the world of Serenade that would finally draw the two rivals together again.
He poured wine,
The world had already suffered the
Zandra, he poured wine
consequence
on
of
his
their
face because he thought he was
rivalry
drinking
millennia
it.
prior.
Oh
During
man,
the
that's
early
kind of
13th
sad, isn't it?
millennium, its inhabitants, an enclave
But he just
of
wants to enjoy
Eldari
some wine. I can feel
experienced
that.
a rather unpleasant visit from Trazin. Fighting his way into their innermost sanctums, Trazin had attempted to steal their most precious artifact, a world spirit gem, a relic of the war in heaven, a gorgeous, powerful piece, said to house the souls of thousands of Eldari. The
Oh,
metal glutton's treachery had been foreseen in prophecy. and the defenders of the world warned him of his recklessness, in spite of knowing that they would be ignored. Trazyn even took a few of them for his collection on the way. The temptation had been too strong.
God damn it.
It would be millennia later that the two rivals returned to the archipelago-rich world. The two clashed in multiple bitter duels over the temple gate, revisiting the world constantly, even as the world had begun to change over the years.
What the fuck?
Eldari, Orc, and even humans would find strange metallic skeletons invading randomly throughout the millennia. The constant skirmishes and betrayal of each other mounted in a clash directly in front of the infamous temple's portal.
That's kind of hilarious that just like randomly throughout fucking every race is just encountering these like weird fucking skeletons just like coming here for this fucking really specific reason. They see them briefly and then just fuck off, never to be seen again. And they don't even probably know that these are Necrons at this time. You know what I'm saying? But like every race is just like encountering them here at this one exact spot if they're there at that time, right? Like that's just hilarious to me. And it's just fucking Trazyn coming over here trying to get his shit, you know what I'm saying? Trying to get this I guess it's like essentially like a soul stone. Houses a bunch of Eldari souls, essentially. He invited humans for a feast? Oh. He's maybe... Oh. Poor Xandric has dementia, still thinks he himself's a flesh being. And he is probably the most honorable Necron. He even inviting enemy generals after he's beaten them. He's maybe the happiest person in the setting besides Orc characters. No need to feel bad for him. I mean, I guess he's like... I guess that's fair. Like if he still perceives himself as happy, it's just like depressing that like, you know, he still like actively feels like the want for like those biological needs, like drinking like that. Like, and isn't there also like some weird like Necron cult where they like wear like fucking people's skin or some shit? They're like skin bots almost. That's fucking crazy to me, you know? Like that's pretty sick, but it's also just like I can understand it through like mental degradation. But is he crazy playing a part? Because his bodyguard isn't quite sure what the fuck. Oh, the Flayer virus, the Flayers. Yeah, that's what they're called. I do recall that. He also has a super nice friend by his side constantly. Is Xandric the one that thought orcs were just rebels painted green because he still thinks he's back in the Necron tier days? Yeah, I did hear about that too, yeah. Is that him? Because if that's him, that's fucking awesome, I won't lie. There's a really good quote of that. I forget exactly how it goes, but he's just like, oh yes, just kill these peasants, essentially. Like, what the fuck? Did you like the Templin vid? Yes, I did. The Templin Institute makes fantastic videos. Every video I've seen from them, I've not been disappointed with. It's hard to say. My favorite one so far, it's either been, it's either the first Tyrannic War, the one we just checked out today, or it's the Black Templar video from them. Because the Black Templar one was very, very good also, I will admit. So far from what I've seen. I'll suggest another soon. Yeah, you should. Like, honestly, they make fantastic videos. The narrators they have are really up to par on that channel. Also, sweet to see that they got a War Thunder sponsor. I know that was a year ago, but sweet to see that they got that going for them.
Mounted in a clash directly in front of the infamous temple's portal. Orokin and Trazyn dueled with legions of their forces, kicking and scraping away at each other. Orokin's mastery of Chronosense, and at times his etheric form, being pitted against Trazyn's infinite number of body doubles, summoned Xenos from his collection, and sheer conniving tactics. They had never been soldiers, and any semblance of ordered battle line had devolved into their strange version of war, influenced by their personalities. But the ringing clang of metal upon metal, they wrestled and struck each other with a bitterness fostered over millennia. The temple portal had been opened, and the two juxtaposing immortals were a fingertip away from greatness.
I like how these literally are just basically like two petty old men
and then the temple
just fighting over shit.
They had missed it. An override protocol thrummed through the chamber. Hundreds of Necron froze in place. The awakened council had come, and the two rivals were taken into custody. Before the council, they were shamed for their childishness, pettiness,
You fucking
and dangerous
idiots.
behavior.
What are you
Due
guys
to the
doing?
unique properties of Serenade, any Necron that had died in the cavern could not be reanimated.
Oh,
Thousands of Necron had been lost. Of course, they blamed each other.
yeah, that's a
The
bit.
council had had enough.
That's a bit
They were
much. If
told that
if they're
their
gonna
feud had
actually, they
become out
can't
of
resurrect.
hand, and
That's
now
pretty
they
fucked
would
up.
Work together or be killed permanently.
We need more Necron
It's
Overlord
getting dark.
mummies. What the fuck?
Trazyn said.
Time to move.
The pair translated to the crypt, and, enfolded in robes and with the illusion.
Imagine
of
being a
native
time
lit,
traveler arrested for
moved
home
out into the
invasion.
city
Yeah, right.
streets.
Like just leave,
They
right?
had to be more careful now. Some spree killer had been active in Serenade City.
I
and
serve till the
enforcers were
stars go
keeping a
dark,
greater
goddamn.
eye out, possibly using scanners. They skirted the edge of the square, avoiding the crowds, letting the emitters work with the shadows. As Orokin passed the stage where the players capered and juggled, he noticed a bizarre detail.
That performer, the one with the tatty crown,
King Mischief, yes.
he has a third arm.
Trazyn smiled.
Indeed. One of the performer's arms is false, I noticed. It allows his free arm to perform the mischief, picking pockets or planting incriminating evidence.
A pickpocket.
Said Orokin.
No wonder you're interested.
King Mischief, from the volumes I've read, is a saboteur who shakes up the social order and exposes hypocrites. The scripts are, I understand, tightly vetted by the administratum.
They passed through the deep shadows, down the long stairs, and slopes of what was once coral shelf, and descended into the abyssal, the sprawling slum built on the great plain below, a plain that had once been a sea floor, before the orcs had pumped billions of drums of water out in order to cool their reactors.
What the
Before
fuck?
the planetary government, while still riding high off denouncing the Orcoid tyranny, realized that they could sell the water to passing Imperial Navy vessels and trade ships, thus opening new land for development. Now much of the ocean was gone, retreating into the smaller basin in the deep sea,
Interesting.
said Trazyn.
How even these bare hub blocks all have window boxes. Little gardens, vegetables, flowers, and each of them carved in rune-like patterns inherited, knowingly or not, from the Eldari.
Very, very interesting. They're like literally talking about the history of that like place, you know what I'm saying? And like first the orcs were there, they pumped out billions of gallons of water to cool their machines, and then like the humans came in, they sold off all the water, and now the water level is like decreased to such a degree where like this tomb is basically like, you know, I think like, you know, on the verge of like showing kind of. Very, very interesting, you know, just like the passage of time, just how things change, the world's pass hands, you know. Very, very cool like explanation they just gave right there in my mind. Morath is too soft. Morathai? Goddamn the names. Orokin, time. In time, perhaps you will descend upon its never-ending vassal. I beseech you, look upon a moment of my mind's eye. It's a good quote. I need to be able to oil the mechanical joints. I love how Trazyn has such passion, but Orokin couldn't care less about such trivial, non-exploitable intel, literally. He's just like, why the fuck do you care so much? Like, how is this useful?
Rune-like patterns inherited, knowingly or not, from the Eldari. Fascinating, isn't it?
Short-lived vermin, borrowing from long-lived degenerates. I don't understand your
Wow.
fascination with humans, Trazyn.
I admit they have their poor qualities, certainly. Unrefined without question. Superstitious? No doubt. And primitive, fractious and grasping as well. Besides, their biology is disgusting. Everything they consume for energy eventually kills them. Their digestive tracts are literal colonies of bacteria.
That's
And their
hilarious.
reproductive system is the same as their waste elimination system. Did you know that?
Haakon grimaced, as if he had not known it.
What the
Preferred
fuck?
to live in a state of ignorance.
That's hilarious.
Trazyn insisted.
I've done the dissections. Yet, despite all those difficulties, they've done a great deal in the galaxy. Their empire may, in time, eclipse the extent that ours was at its height. Perhaps it does already. They have not the coordination to tell. They are born weak, mature slowly.
They have not the
short
coordination to
lifespans,
tell.
and in a galaxy packed with creatures that come into the world fully grown and armed with fangs and armored with bone. They have
And it's all like very cool that even Trazyn knows just like how fucked up like Imperium bureaucracy is, that not even like the Imperium knows how like large they technically are. They just know that they still get troop tie. They just don't know from how many worlds, but they are getting it. And if they find that you're not like abiding by that, they'll come down on you. But like, God knows how many like there actually are. The Imperium bureaucracy is fucking insane. Female orc war boss, she can crump me. Whoa, whoa. Holy shit.
that come into the world fully grown and armed with fangs and armored with bone. They have still managed to become the dominant force through technology and will.
Trazyn paused, as if weighing whether to trust Oricon with his next sentence.
Link to the
There
crazy
might be
Necron
a
Lord
bit
now in
of
40k chat said.
or
Thank you,
rather,
Andrew. I appreciate
How
that.
we used to be. Ambitious but short-lived.
Oricon growled, a displeased buzzing in his vocal emitters.
We had greater technology, and their lives are much longer than ours were.
Not by much.
Trazyn chided.
Not really. Particularly given that they cannot use stasis crypts during star voyages as we did. Oh, they artificially extend them with drug treatments and cosmetics, or the awful surgeries of the Hastatis. But that is a
Goddamn.
very small minority. Most are overall adjusted to their short lives. They consider it enough.
They know nothing better.
Said Oricon with a note of bitterness.
Our truncated,
He is bitter.
tumor-cursed lives have
'Cause
to be
they-
lived in the shadow of
they
the
obviously
immortal old ones.
Went
Before
for it,
that,
you know what I
we,
mean?
too, accepted our fate.
Do you think that, given the choice, they would trade their souls for immortality as we did?
As you did.
Said Oricon.
I resisted. I saw the delusion. You were only too willing to trade in that broken body of yours.
Trazyn stopped.
I went to the flames of biotransference in chains. It is distinct in my engrams. I can picture it with clarity.
Interesting.
Lock collar around my throat, metal hands, tireless
Like they have that in
grasping my
common. They
shoulders.
both disagreed with it.
Took
They
me
probably
in my
didn't know that.
library. The one who did it, Nilkath, was a Sotek warden. One of the Stormlord's vassals.
Oricon stared at him, ocular rotating, as if certain
Like, I bet they didn't know that about each other, that they both, like, heavily resisted the changes. Like, they each probably thought about the other, that they just fully went along with it. But, like, no. Like, they both disagreed with, like, having their souls taken, and Oricon is very clearly bitter about his being taken from him. You know, it's like, it's understandable, but, like, goddamn, you know? There ain't no female orcs, though, just lots of squigs and grots and Gretchens. Oh my god, holy shit. Yikers. Morathai is a female dark elf from Fantasy and Age of Sigmar who makes demons of Slanesh jealous because of how hot she is. Whoa. Hottest character in all of Warhammer? Yikes. Uh-oh.
Oricon stared at him, ocular rotating, as if searching his death mask, looking for the telltale sign of power rerouting that might signal a lie.
We remember it differently then.
He said, and though Oricon's word often carried the lingering kiss of acid, these in particular burned.
After all, you are the historical expert, are you not?
The diviner turned, and they walked the rest of the 6-mile way in silence, arriving just before dawn.
Serenade City.
Ambitious but short-lived, Within the creature called humanity, most of these primitive Xenos were lucky to reach the age of 80, most residing in squalor and working back-breaking jobs. But these very people also created wonders, culture, art, an empire that spanned the entire galaxy. It was a reminder of the life that had been taken from the Necrons, from Trazyn and Orokin. That ambition to live. Our life is consumed by the escape of death. We desire to create things that will pass a piece of us on after death. Family, religion, art, business, and even, at times, pain. This will of the species had formed the Necron tier, and perhaps Trazyn's fascination with humanity.
I'll have to settle for female orcs from Elder Scrolls and Warcraft.
That sensation of life.
I don't know, man. Say what you will, but female orcs and
when the
Elder Scrolls
had whispered to their silent king.
Listen, man, I can't judge. You know what I'm saying? Can't judge.
The wisdom of the Necron tier was true. Now forced to work together, despite both of their protests, the two rivals made astounding progress in the continuing quest for the Tomb of Nephrith. The world of Serenade had changed more over the millennia, now home to a colony of the Imperium of Mankind. The world's very history had been affected by the meddling of both of them. Trazyn even finding a statue made in his likeness.
What the fuck?
Depicting his clash with an invading orc force millennia ago.
That's hilarious.
Of course, the opportunity to rub it in Orokin's face could not be passed up. Did he have a statue made in his honor? Was he worshipped by Xenos? Perhaps if Orokin still could, he would have rolled his eyes. Nothing was worse than hearing Trazyn gloat, or talk about how he eventually stole the statue too.
That's hilarious.
Their research led them to discover a pattern with the very energy of the world itself. It thrummed almost like a melody, chanting a binary code.
Orc blacksmith and Markarth, she can pound my metal any day, those who know.
Helped fill in the missing gaps, and tightened their grip upon their goal, the Asterium Mysterios, forged in the mind of the genius Datamancer Vishani in the time of flesh.
The only thing about the Elder Scrolls orcs, I just wish they used more than fucking 3 voice actors for the entirety of like the orcs in game.
To learn everything he could about it. The design and craftsmanship had imprinted onto his circuit.
Most worlds don't know what an Astartes looks like, so when a savior comes by and he tells he is an Astartes, they go along. Yeah.
Over millennia.
I think it's also a thing too where like there's literally cases of like heretic Astartes like showing up planets, and like the Astra Militarum forces on the planet are like, you know, fucking like, oh my god, we're saved, like finally, like we're getting like Space Marine support finally. They land and then it's just fucking like, you know, they don't open fire, their weapons are down, and it's literally just like heretic Astartes very clearly, but they have no fucking idea what a Space Marine looks like. You know what I mean? So they just get butchered like on site instantly because they're not defending themselves. They have no fucking idea what's up. It's just like a crazy concept. Like most regular people, most regular soldiers aren't going to have any idea what your side looks like as Space Marines. Daedric Prince Nocturnal or Azura. Oh my god. Azura's pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. There was an animation with the Iron Warriors in that. Yeah, that happens. Sometimes the traders even keep the world because Astartes saved us, but traders. Because Astartes and saved us, but traitors. That doesn't make much sense, unfortunately. Happened in a recent Emperor's Children book. I think I understand what you're trying to say. There was a Warhammer Plus animation where a world is being raided by Druakai, Dark Eldar, and then Astartes pods came down and drove off the Dark Eldar. The guards realized they were Iron Warriors. Oh fuck yeah, because I guess the Iron Warriors, like, you wouldn't, they're kind of neutral looking almost, Iron Warriors. Like, you wouldn't really know. They don't really give the impression that they're like bad per se. A lot of the guard joined them. Oh fuck.
This knowledge coalesced over millennia and had formed an almost consciousness-like state in his mind. It was as if he could speak to Vishani herself. Only one as skilled, in fact only Oricon wielded the mastery to perform this. Warnings, revelations, questions, all began to be whispered to Oricon over thousands of
Iron Warriors W. Yeah, the Iron
Vishani
Warriors are sweet.
urged him to unlock her mysteries. A prize beyond comprehension awaited. Trazyn and Oricon next found themselves on another incursion on
Most Iron Warriors are not corrupted, at least on body. Yeah, they look mostly normal, right?
Within
For the most
world's
part.
capital,
For the most part.
Serenade City, Trazyn was caught by the expression of culture, loving every second of it, even snagging a few trinkets for later display.
Of course.
It was during this time that Trazyn uttered the words that
Trazyn just
truly
committing theft.
shocked Oricon. I went to the flames of biotransference in chains. It is distinct in my engrams. I can picture it with clarity. The lock collar around my throat. Metal hands, tireless, grasping my shoulders. They took me in my library. The one
Black
who
Templars
did
for
it,
the win, he did Iron
Hellcat,
Babies. Whoa,
was a
whoa, whoa.
Cybertaco warden,
Holy shit.
One of the Stormlord's vassals. Oricon could not believe it. Trazyn was equally shocked when Oricon revealed that this was a lie. Trazyn had volunteered. The archivist of the Nihalak dynasty, old and decrepit, had feared one thing. Not his body decaying or enslavement, but losing his mind, his inner library of history and culture. Trazyn did not go to the furnace in chains. It was him. He had dragged Oricon in chains. Trazyn was stunned. For all the differences between them, they were similar in some ways. Both highly talented, driven Necrons, reckless and at times petty. They
At
had
times
beaten,
petty.
tricked, sabotaged, even jumped out of portals and had shot at each other because
I don't know what the fuck like the at times they are petty like line there is. Like they are always petty. These motherfuckers are nothing but petty. All they do is petty shit, in fact. Like I don't think we've seen one instance here of them not being petty towards one another. Like this entire goddamn time. Now I'm being reminded of Daniok. This is bad. Uh-oh. Where was this Iron Warrior support when I was fighting for my life during the Perturabo stream? That's how it goes, Goob. Gotta get thrown under the bus when it matters, but when it doesn't, then the support comes out. They're petty because they have the time to be petty. Yeah, I guess so. I guess when you have the time to be petty and there's nothing else to do, like why not, right? Like it's just kind of the thing.
sabotaged, even jumped out of portals and had
Yes,
shot
but it's
at
from
each
their
other
perspective. They
because
think
clearly
they are just
deserved
sometimes
it,
petty,
but they were
even though
never
it's done over the
cruel.
course of
At
hundreds of
least
years at
Trazyn
least.
thought he had never been. He apologized to Oricon. The biotransference had taken something precious from all the Necron, and if true, he was sorry. He was sorry he had participated in that very theft. The fact that Trazyn had the ability to apologize likely shocked Oricon to his core. The time of flesh to all Necrons was like viewing an obscure dream. It seems the actions of Mephitran the Deceiver and the other Khitan had taken more than just their souls. They had taken their memories too.
Bird stream was goated. Guys,
Trazyn
if you want to see the
massive
bird
tome,
stream, you got to leave a comment on the video and you got to let me know that the bird stream needs to happen.
Dust as it creaked
Just
shut.
saying.
Mites ran in panic flight throughout the binding.
No, not good enough. Must go earlier, I think. Coloma, please find me earlier volumes of They Drank the Seas. A copy from before the Inquisition censored Chapter 2. And anything you can find on subterranean building projects in that...
Lord, replied the ancient knight librarian. He stood, spine bent from decades of pushing carts and shelving great volumes.
Yes, librarian?
I'm sorry to say that this will be my last night with you.
Trezin looked up.
Really? So soon?
I had mentioned to you 2 years ago, my lord, that I was scheduled to be forcibly retired.
But I paid for those augmetics, the hip and leg, the juvenats to keep her body together when it started to deteriorate.
That was 30 years ago, my lord.
Oh my
I
god.
have grown old in your service, and it is not a question of willingness. Younger men in the librarium wish to move up, and they cannot while I hold my post.
I see,
said Trezin, looking the elderly knight librarian up and down. He had not noticed in his deep focus, but he saw the truth of it. Colma's skin was parchment thin.
Interesting to like see just how like much time passes like to a Necron. Like they don't conceive time the same way. Didn't even realize that it'd been 30 years and like he was just so focused on his work because they don't conceive time in the same manner we do, right? And it's also interesting to know that he's just got like a human here, like that he's working with. Like what the fuck? This is kind of sad, I'm not gonna lie. Because like this guy actually seems to enjoy, like they seem to enjoy working together in a sense. Did you have craft dinner on pizza for lunch? No, I didn't. I did have some mac and cheese tonight for part of my dinner, but I did not have any of that degenerate pizza craft dinner now. Anthony, you're about to find out why there's a battle in my name. Holy shit. A conversation can last months or years while sitting on the same table. Sitting at the same table? Yeah. Yeah, literally. Like, they can just be, like, lost in conversation for that long. I could imagine that. Cooking chat was cooked last night. So true. Welcome to immortality. What is 1 year when you have all of them ahead of you? Literally, yeah. But I imagine, like, does he feel sadness, like, when people pass that he cares about? Does he care about people? Or things? Like, he must. He's a historian, right? So, like, I imagine, like, people that, like, actually serve him well or people that are important, when they pass on, he's probably like, oh, fuck, I wasn't able to preserve them, in a sense.
The truth of it. Colma's skin was parchment thin, his gait unbalanced as his one fleshy leg had withered due to the strength of its metal mate. He wore a back brace laced over his yellow robes, brown eyes misted with cataracts. The right one so thick it was like the pupil peered through the sheet of vellum, regarding him with pained regret. How old had he been when Trezin first brought him into service? 25? 30? Young and vital, that was sure, quick of mind and strong of body, able to hoist volumes broad as his muscular shoulders, and thicker than his forearms.
Well,
Said Trezin.
You had better sit then.
Coloma sat, slowly. Augmetic joints squeaked and stuck. He held his stiff natural leg out far to one side, wincing when the knee bent slightly.
You have been a good and faithful servant, Coloma.
And you a good master, lord. My treatments, the hab block close to the library, my children educated in the good scholums, an ash box in the garden of remembrance for my dear Maria. I owe you much.
Trezin waved a hand, as if dismissing the aid.
Rewards are the fundamental mechanism of good leadership. Any master
Interesting.
would say.
My dear
Wow.
masters in the Serenade Central
So
Library.
Trazin actually has like a sense of like honor here at least. Like he's
Yours
willing
is
to
a
reward
terror
those
culture, my friend,
that actually
and terror
do
breeds
things for him.
obedience, but not loyalty.
That actually serve him.
I have
Wow.
arranged for my replacement, lord. I have been training him, a good man named Tova. Xander Tova. He will be here to serve you tomorrow night.
Trezin nodded.
You have given him the amulet.
I have.
Coloma confirmed.
The mind shackle scarabs will have implanted themselves already. I saw it in his eyes during the shift change this evening.
And you trained him personally?
He is my nephew, Lord. I have prepared him for his duties.
So the thing was done well, as Coloma ever had. He hoped that Tova would prove as able and enthusiastic. Though if Coloma had groomed him, that was a good enough reference. The Scarabs would do the rest, though Coloma might have performed just as well without the application of their blunt force control.
I will miss you, Coloma.
And I you, Lord.
You know, of course, that I simply cannot let you go.
A faint flicker behind the cataracts.
He's probably like a good pet to him. Yeah, something like that. But at least he's like a good pet to him, yeah, but like that is fucking leagues better than like most other like shit that you'll get. Like be a faithful servant in the Imperium. What does that get you? That gets you a quick death if you're lucky. I'm just saying. Like, you know, like you don't get an ash box for your loved one, you know what I'm saying? You know, you don't get your kids a good education, you know. You get a quick death if you're favored. let's be real here. That's the best you can hope for. Yeah, I would 100% choose to be Trazin's pet. Like, yeah, like 100%. Like, that sounds fucking goated, I won't lie. Like, compared to anything else you could be, yeah, 100%.
So the Scarabs asserting themselves.
Of course not, Lord. I am a liability to your great work.
I cannot promise it will be painless, but it will be fast.
Thank you, Master. My life has been long and happy. I wish only to join Maria in the ash box.
Good,
said Trazin. He may not have been telling the conscious truth, but clearly on some level, Coloma wanted to die. The Scarabs had not needed to push hard. Had they done so, they might have killed the frail old librarian, which is not what Trazin wished. Despite his good service, Trazin had no desire to carry his body up from the basement.
I see.
He went to his desk, sat down, and folded his hands, looking at the portrait of his wife, gone over a decade now. When the stroke hit him, it was more painful than anything he'd experienced. But true to the word of his metal lord, it was over quickly.
I see. Trazin sometimes purposely leaves his museum pieces in stasis with their minds still working. It's pretty bad. Doesn't he only do that to like bad shit though? Like shit that's like wronged him, or like, you know, shit that like, you know, naturally people just fucking hate. Like I don't think he just does that to like the average like person, you know. I think he does that like out of spite for certain things, right? If that's not incorrect. Trazin has a very unique perspective on humans due to him being a historian, which makes him an ideal person to work with. That's fair, because he doesn't want to, like, destroy, in a sense. Sometimes it's just optimal, so he does it depending on the circumstances. That's fair.
In a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wildflower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. A robin redbreast in a cage puts all heaven in a rage. Truth that's told with bad intent beats all the lies you can invent. It is right, it should be so. Man was made for joy and woe. And when this we rightly know, through the world we safely go. When we see not through the eye which was born in a night to perish in a night, when the soul slept in beams of light.
To see a world in a grain of sand, and a heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palm of your hand. Trazin understood the true experience of beauty. He reveled in it. We know that feeling. that overwhelming draw of emotion and wonder. It is a point in which the universe seems
You
to
put two
rotate.
armies awake across the hall from each other in perfect open view of each other. That's pretty sick. That's pretty fucking
Trezen would
diabolical, I
often
won't
slow
lie.
his chronosense to its absolute limit, just to appreciate those moments of discovery. Then,
He did it to a space marine
utilizing
just to
his
see if he could
Tesseract
surely torture his mind into
the
madness.
device that
Jesus.
captured his intended exhibits into a pocket dimension, stuck.
Are these
in an
poems part of the story,
unchanging
or are they something that
galleries and solemn
the
names
Amber King
were
puts in?
filled
I'm pretty
with
sure they're
those
just something that the
moments
Amber
of
King
beauty.
puts in.
Creatures
He has different,
and
like,
Xenos
quotes from
that had
different
made their
stuff to try to
mark
get, like,
upon
points
Trezen
across.
and the
It's been pretty
galaxy.
consistently
If
like
one
that
were
in
to
a lot of his
walk the
videos.
city-sized halls of Solemnnace, they would find all sorts of fascinating things. Mighty warriors from the war in heaven, ancient Eldari, a Krog, an ossified husk of an enslaver, a thunder warrior, even
Fuck.
a Tau diplomat that was sent to negotiate with Trezen, an exhibit
A Tau
linked to the
diplomat?
heading of Goj Van Dyer, a custodian guard, even his infamous Eldari soul gem, taken from Serenade, and not to mention the numerous galleries dedicated to the Horus heresy. That had been a rather busy time for Trezen.
No
This
doubt.
is what he'd loved, and he became lost within these moments. As an immortal, his perception of time had been altered, and he could be lost in thought for decades, a consequence that he only realized with his mortal servants. How many had lived and died by his side through the passage of time?
I see.
Trezen was himself a preserver, and though much of his species, like Orokin, thought of Xenos as nothing but primitives, things to be trampled under their desires, Trezen did not share this opinion, or at least not to the same extent. A device he often used amongst his servants and galleries was his infamous mind shackles scarabs, nano-sized automatons that fuse into the mind of the host, allowing a measure of mind control upon the victim. A safety
Interesting.
precaution, he would assure you. But yet, despite this immoral act, the Overlord treated his servants well, like a craftsman who treated his tools with care.
I
Trezen
see.
had a world filled with some of the greatest creations of the past. He had a galaxy to pillage and borrow from.
Borrow,
Perhaps deep
quote
down he
unquote.
knew Orokin was right. Perhaps he had embraced the offer of immortality.
Definitely no
What the
HP
Guitar
Lovecrafts
had
included in this
truly
story.
promised
Yeah,
was
it's not
the
like we saw
immortal
one
life
already.
they had been offered. And would Trezen give it up now? With
If
the
only he
secrets of the
realized Clone
rivals
Grim from his
revealed,
galleries.
it
Holy
could be
shit.
possible to return to flesh, to live a life in a new, healthy body.
Gotta head to
Trezen
dinner? Yeah,
accepted.
you head out, Hobbit. Have yourself a nice
Orokin's
meal.
own thought in a way mirrored the infinite.
Take care, man.
He had no desire to return to flesh either. The Necron could be so much more. He'd achieved at certain times an etheric, energy-like state, an existence without the confines of the material, where information and knowledge flowed around them like a river. This could have been the Necron-Tyr's future if Trezen had not dragged him in chains to the furnace. An understandable resentment that had wounded and bound the two for millions of years. Working together for millennia on Nephref's tomb, the two have managed to somewhat find a mutual respect for one another, even mutually saving each other's lives a few times. The world of Serenade was in danger. Millennia ago, the Astromancers had foreseen its destruction via Exterminatus, a consequence they only
Poems in this video appear to be William Blake poems. There was an HP Lovecraft one as well.
On his rival. In his defense,
There was one earlier.
it was not a serious hit, and it had been hilarious at the time. From that small mistake, a gene-stealer cult had formed in the backwaters of the world, leading to a full-on uprising. The world had become a loss for the Imperium, and Exterminatus was coming. The two headed down to the location of another temple portal, but at the moment of glory, Orokin heard the whispers. Datamancer Vishani, the voice of his closest friend. Now, my equal, take the Asterium Mysterios. Trazyn cannot go further. You cannot let him.
God damn.
Despite all the camaraderie and respect they had built working together, paranoia and greed overtook Oricon.
Of course it
and
did.
He lashed out. But in his desperation, Oricon's usual strategic composure was lost, and he was outwitted by Trazyn. He was buried under a mountain of rubble. Trazyn escaped, leaving Oricon entombed, trapped as the planet above was executed.
That's fucked up. But he kind of did it to himself there. I mean, like, come on now.
Taking in the ghostly images as they drifted thick upon the air.
And what is the point of recording such a story?
Clone Lord.
If there's no one to appreciate it.
Yet.
What?
No one to appreciate it yet.
Trazyn's metal fingers tapped against his staff.
Interesting.
I am no more unique in this universe than you. We are outliers, true, but not.
He also pinched Jor's wallet before he left. What the fuck?
From their slumber of eons.
He just fucking robbed him also. He's like, well, since you betrayed me, guess I'll pilfer. Might as well.
I doubt they will appreciate it, or even listen. But one does not expect gratitude from the masses.
He glanced at his silent servants.
Dull-witted things.
Yes.
Fabius studied the ancient being.
How long have you been here?
Longer than your races possess the ability to stand upright.
You are immortal.
I am persistent.
Trazyn also has a Catan shard in his collection? What the fuck?
My race made a habit of persistence in the time of flesh. When faced with extinction, we chose instead a new way.
The image swelled, and Fabius saw something. A strange entity of starlight and malice. It watched as legions of living things marched into the great furnace-like structures. The creatures were blurry, as if memory of them had been eradicated, and all that was left was an absence. But what emerged from the burning heart of the edifices was easily recognizable.
Thus Necron Tyr gave way to Necron, and we enslaved ourselves to infinity.
Trazyn rasped.
Look at it, Fabius. Is it not wonderful and horrible?
The star being rose, vaguely humanoid in shape, blazing with searing cosmic energies. Awful and breathtaking to behold.
They ate stars, you know. And worlds besides. But we had the last laugh in the end.
I suppose that's true.
We bound them in cages of harsh reality and used them to power our world engines.
Like this place, you mean?
Fabius said.
Exactly.
One of those things is here.
Yes, buried deep and safe. The crown jewel of my collection, and the source of its power.
Trazyn laughed again.
The source of my power.
It began to pace, circling Fabius slowly, as if judging his merits. Fabius tensed. The creature had not taken his weapons, or made any attempt to harm him. Despite that, he knew he was in danger.
Madness.
He said flatly.
All of this madness.
You're about to get taken,
You boast
Fabius.
of power, but you are nothing more than a thief. Perhaps not even that.
Wow.
Trazyn stiffened.
Are you the being you were before you were poured into the metal sarcophagus? Or are you merely the ghost of who and what you once were?
Fabius turned slowly, keeping the pacing metal figure in sight.
The same might be said of you. Are you even yourself?
The Clone
or
Lord
are you merely
Fabius
a copy
Bile,
of a
formerly
copy
an
of a
Emperor's
copy?
children, but now
The faded
needs his own
imprint of a
Warbound, the
thing long
Creations
dead.
of Bile.
Trazyn
That's a kind of
said.
radical name, eh?
Fabius froze.
He does look pretty crazy.
Yes, I know all about you, Fabius Bile.
He stopped and thumped the floor with the ferrule of his staff.
Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps you lack the ability to conceive of true greatness. This galaxy is but a pale, shrunken husk of what it once was.
He's channeling the
Wonders and
Catan
glories
shard for
such as the
power?
human mind cannot
Yes.
comprehend.
Yeah, pretty
At
much.
best, you might glimpse a glimmer of its light, as if at the end of a great tunnel.
Which makes
Then
sense.
why are we even having this conversation?
And it's also kind of
Fabius
crazy to think that
leaned
Trazyn
forward.
himself has one of those.
Why bother with
Just
this
himself.
tete-a-tete if you have concluded that there is such a gulf between us?
I was curious.
Fabius nodded in understanding.
Be that as it may, I see no benefit to circling one another like territorial.
He's using it as power for the museum. Fuck, that's fog.
With it.
Drazen made a hissing sound that might have been a snicker.
I do not think that you would like that. I disabled your armor's cognitive pattern buffer. When was the last time you backed up your mind? Recently, I hope. Else the next you might be at quite a loss.
Fabius stiffened.
You know.
As I said, I know all about you. It is quite impressive. I use something similar, though vastly superior in design and function myself. That you were able to cobble together something so useful with such crude materials is commendable. The signal has a faint aftertaste. Eldari, I think.
It's funny how he's like, he's still like complimenting him. That's kind of cool by Drazen. Like, even though he just got insulted by Fabius here, Drazen's still just like willing to give him a compliment by saying like, yo, like, you know, you actually, like, even though it's very crude, it's not sophisticated, you actually cobbled together something that was pretty good. You jury-rigged that, and that's decent. Good job, man. Like, it's cool he's actually still willing to pay, like, a respect in that sense, you know? He just turned off Fabius's ability to clone himself and his memories. Yeah, he did, but, like, you know, he's still, like, being chill with them in a sense here, which is kind of cool.
I think.
A variation on their infinity circuit technology. I like to think of it as a neural game of sorts, allowing for the flow of pertinent data between nodes.
Fabius tapped the side of his head.
Veins of specially cultivated wraith bone inserted into the unoccupied cerebellum of clone bodies, allowed to flourish within set parameters. It acts as a sort of tuning fork.
There's no point in fighting, yeah. There isn't.
Mine.
Very clever, in a primitive sort of way. A cleverness motivated by necessity.
This is like a toddler with a rattle before a nuclear nation. Like, yeah, literally.
Of your biological status the moment you arrived.
I'd love for Drazen to fill me with that. Oh, God.
Pernicious way.
The blight.
Damn it, fear.
Fabius said flatly.
I am aware.
No doubt. It always creeps back, does it not? It has buried itself so deep in your marrow that whatever soil you set your roots in...
I do really like the design of the Emperor's children, I will say.
Beast flesh.
They're pretty awesome looking.
Someone whispered. Fabius twitched.
I have made peace with my mortality. I persist only out of a sense of obligation.
So I have heard.
Do Necron bits buzz? Oh my god. Oh, the Fall Acadia? Okay. This will be cool to see. Obviously, we saw a bit of this in Battlefleet.
Cole disengaged his
Oh yeah, with Cole. Okay. Okay.
Screen and stared upwards.
This is cool.
The inscrutable bulk of the pylon stood like a shadow against the strata of the cavern wall, defiant, mocking. Had he merely traded one world of obdurate secrets for another?
In the core of the Mars, the Emperor trapped a huge pick of the Void Dragon, one of the most powerful Catan. Oh shit! So the Void Dragon is a Catan, is that right? That's like a physical form of a Catan.
Waylaying his attention while she stole the reliquary, Cole felt his rebreather quicken. He could not imagine why she would do such a thing. But what cause did Xenos truly need for malice? A familiar sensation crept across his sense filaments. He was not alone.
I like how it's the Mechanicus saying that. It's Call of all people saying that.
Than he had expected.
I projected your arrival before now, Veilwalker.
Cole turned, servo crawlers scuttling beneath him. The intruder was not the Shadow Seer. Green eyes blazed from beneath a hood of metallic scale. The power core of a burnished staff glinted.
I mean you no harm.
The figure cocked his head to one side.
Are those the correct words? I find that no matter which I use, no one ever believes them.
He paused.
Wait.
You are an abomination!
Secondary circuits meshed, retrieving ancient data.
Like, what the fuck?
Necron, a soulless embodiment of the motive force. A blasphemy against the Omnisire. Called Arc Scourge slithered to life, energy crackling across its coils.
You are an abomination.
Yeah, there it
Set his
is.
staff aside.
Thief normally suffices. I prefer honored guest. But
The
abomination...
call voice is very good in this, I'm not gonna lie.
Common
That sounds
cause.
pretty good.
Cole willed the Arc Scourge's tendrils to war mode, already anticipating the joy of dissection.
Logic dictates otherwise.
Then you don't seek to understand the nature of this matrix.
Malgadroth, the Void Dragon, he is one of the Catan and is God of Technology. God of Technology is a fucking sick title, holy shit.
Its mockery of existence.
You comprehend its secrets.
I was there when they were first erected. Or perhaps I wasn't. You, of all people, should understand that memory is a
The fickle thing, yeah.
Cole allowed an angry hiss to rattle through his rebreather.
Fuck.
We share no commonality.
Perhaps. I went to the fires of biotransference in chains. You, I think, have gladly sliced away your humanity piece by piece.
Literally.
Necron stepped closer, eyes blazing.
You can't say that, though. Can't say that to a Mechanicus, even though it's totally fucking true.
Destroy me if you wish. I will simply awaken elsewhere. Nothing will change. For me, for you, for this world.
Cole remained silent, probabilities warping and reforming with fresh data. First an Eldar had set him on this path. Now a Necron offered to guide his steps. But if the knowledge preserved the Omnisire's Imperium...
Show me.
I thought you'd never ask.
At the cavern's edge, Katarina Greyfax beheld Celestine's arrival with revulsion.
Oh, great.
How long had she been gone, that such heresy could take root? Battle sisters...
Abomination
suffused with the
call,
power
here's a
of
mirror. Dude,
idolatry.
literally. I love the Mechanicus with their whole, like, pot calling the kettle black, like, argument there. Like, what is an abomination? Like, bro, have you fucking, like, checked yourself out at all? Do you, like, understand the intrigue, what goes on your planets? Like, do you see yourselves? Like, holy shit, like, you are more machine than human. There is no humanity left in the Mechanicus, almost, seemingly, with the shit that they do. Like, it's actually fucking radical, like, to me, you know what I'm saying? Like, it is straight up, like, pot calling the kettle black, like, argument with them. Like, that's why I, like, you know, I understand we got to agree with the Mechanicus, you know, they're a valued member of the Imperium, but between you and me, fucking... They're kind of fucking weirdos, you know what I'm saying? That's just my opinion. You know, I'm fucking goddamn.
Root. Battle sisters suffused with the power of idolatry. Warriors of the Adeptus Astartes reveling in the corruption
Definitely
of
insane,
their own
like, yeah.
mutations.
Call is his centipede router with borderline personality disorder,
Amid the
very
loyal
human
soldiers of
indeed.
Cadia and
Yeah,
Ultramar,
sounds like it.
known across the galaxy for their unswerving devotion. Their purity.
Dude's 90%
Embraced
fucking
these
metal.
evils in the name of victory. It was a cornerstone of Greyfax's certainty. That
Kind of,
evil
like the
had
sun is
no
kind of warm.
shapes, no lesser
True.
forms that could be tolerated in the
Pinnacle of
service to a
humanity.
larger goal.
Guess that's your
Purity
opinion,
was
right?
perfection,
Somebody's opinion.
Uncompromising. Ideal. She had
Centipede
killed
router is a
thousands
fucking good
lesser
one, I
sins
like
than
that.
this. She had killed her own kind for wavering from the path. What victory could there be if adamant precepts were torn asunder? The shadows reformed around her. Green eyes.
Insanity is the other
blazed.
side of brilliance.
Greyfax aimed the muzzle of her contemptible.
I don't know, what they do
square
doesn't really
into
seem brilliant to me.
Abomination.
That word again.
A metal hand gestured lazily across the cavern.
Stop me if this sounds familiar. But I suspect your priorities...
Call is not even
require
one person, it's an
reevaluation.
amalgamation of
You
memories of
sow
many
corruption
scientists in
wherever
one
you
body.
tread. Your reckoning
Like, that's
is
not human
overdue.
at all then, in
She
that case,
pulled
is
the
it?
trigger, or she tried to. Her finger didn't respond.
Damn.
Trezin opened his palm, a flood of microscopic machines flowing over his fingers.
I am not a fool. The mind shackle will not let you harm me.
Bile flooded Greyfax's mouth. Anger seared it away.
You've corrupted me, as you did Valeria.
Again, Greyfax tried to pull the trigger. Again, nothing happened. Useless.
I brought you here out of common cause,
said Trazin.
I am not yet done with this world, and nor is your Imperium. If you seek to save it, I suggest you focus that formidable certainty of yours elsewhere. Our reckoning will wait.
Interesting.
With a snarl, Greyfax turned away. It is the late 40th millennium. Over 3 centuries ago, treacherous Orokin had tried to make off with the prize and steal the Asterium Mysterios. It had been an eventful time.
Here I am again. Hey,
Trazin had
McJigger J,
left
how
his
you doing?
rival buried on the world of Serenade. With the unique physiology of the world, there was no reanimation.
Mind shackle scarabs are grim dark as hell. Yeah, they are.
Diviner, waiting for the precious moment for when the temple's portal was destined to be opened. Trazin the Infinite had been up to
Like it or not, call us hero of the Imperium many times over. Not saying he's not. Again, not saying the Imperium or not saying the Mechanicus what they do, you know, isn't valued. You know, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the way they go about shit is awful scuffed. That's all I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like, again, if you ever seen, what was it, Abomination? I know we did a reaction to that. Abomination was fucking that shit's a horror show. You know what I'm saying? That is a complete horror show, and it just goes to show that like the Mechanicus are fucking, they're petty as shit. In in a intrigue way, like the way they work with the Imperium, they are fucking ultra petty. They are the definition of petty, like straight up. So like, I don't know, man. Like, they're pretty backwater if you ask me with the shit that they do. And I'm calling them backwater, like even knowing that the shit that they do in the in the Imperium itself, like not in the Mechanicus, in the Imperium, you know, I'm calling them pretty backwater. Just like, oops, yeah, like literally, like my bad, oopsies. Oh, we made a mistake. Oh, but he can have his boy back. We only made him brain dead. Oopsie. Like what? Okay.
All kind.
Even a broken clock is right once in 100 years. So yeah, the Mechanicus do some good. Like literally, like that's exactly it, right? Once in 100 years or so.
Kinds of mischief. He indulged in the activity that brought him endless joy, adding to his collection.
The flesh is
Trazin
weak.
tried
Yeah.
twice to obtain the Spear of Vulcan from the Salamander's forge father Vulcan Hestan.
That's
An
hilarious.
artifact forged by the hands of a Primarch would have been a most treasured prize.
Truly.
However, he was defeated in personal combat and was later foiled once again in the Tochran Crusade, an entire combat he had orchestrated for the sole purpose of having another try against those pesky humans.
That's hilarious.
He even ventured to the world of Harmony, a major base for the corrupted traitorous forces of the Emperor's children. His efforts to capture new additions for the galleries was thwarted, and he was wounded by Eidolon, former captain of the 3rd Legion. But the ever cunning and charming Trazin managed to barter for his life and offered up a lost gene seed tithe of the Emperor's children that was part of his collection, neglecting to mention how or when he had acquired such a thing.
Yeah.
Accompanied by Fabius Bile, the accursed
Convenient, isn't that?
apothecary, he found within him something of a kindred spirit, in a primitive way. Not that the Clone Lord could compare to the Infinite, but their innate curiosity had defined them both.
Eidolon.
His interest in the Clone Lord also bore fruit, and in exchange for his own
Once you watch
life,
Abomination
Fabius
2, you
offered
understand
a
that far
much
better. I didn't know there was a
worthy
second one. We
prize
might
to
have to check that
Trazin's
out soon for
collection.
sure.
A perfect clone.
You stole it during the Crusade?
The Phoenician. A truly glorious prize. Trazin had created a gallery that would be one of the greatest wonders in the galaxy, and he had created it for his people. When the Great Awakening came, and his people would all arise from the Great Sleep, here it would be, the history for all to enjoy. Though he knew not all would appreciate it. Those such as Orokin and most of his
Those getting teabagged by Fulgrim.
Some
Yikes.
would. The centuries
Gotta get going. Nice hanging out with you guys. Yeah, you have yourself a good night, Goop. Talk to you later, eh? Thank you for tuning in.
Shattered. The bell of Saint Gerstar, an Imperium artifact within
Fulgrim
the gallery,
decapitated Eidolon and Fabius sewed the head back on. Was he still alive? Did he take it like a champ?
Destroying exhibits and even some of Trazin's surrogate bodies. Trazin was furious, angry
Yeah, Goop,
at
you have yourself a good
stupid
night.
Bell and the damage
See you in the next
it
one,
had
eh?
caused. Trazin investigated.
Oh, it
His
was still
research
functional?
took
What the
him to
fuck?
Cadia, the Imperium's greatest bastion.
Took it like a teabag loving servant. Holy shit.
The 13th
What
Black
the fuck?
Crusade had begun. A massive invasion into real space by the denizens of the warp. Chaos. That horrific sea of madness used long ago by the Old Ones was seeking to expand its influence into the galaxy. A threat to all, and especially the galleries. And in a way, the pool of things Trazin could collect. Trazin skulked in the shadows, quietly aiding the Imperium, activating the ancient Necron pylons, containing the expansion of the Eye of Terror. As the conflict escalated, he presented himself to the primitives in person. The contrast between himself and the infamous Archmagos Belisarius call was not lost on him.
Literally.
This crude augmentation of his form. How he strived to lessen his tethers to his base personality. Something Trazin had feared losing himself long ago. The fact
But
that
the Mechanicus just openly embrace it. Literally.
The threat of the
Literally.
inferior ones was greater than any disgust they had towards each other, and so Necron and human joined forces. Trazin was unleashed. Tapping into his reserves, he unleashed his Tesseract labyrinths. Warriors and heroes of the Imperium were unleashed onto a battlefield, each taken millennia from their own era. Even the infamous Inquisitor Greyfax, toying with such a staunchly rigid specimen, was often a delight, and it was a shame he could no longer toil with it. Like an
Interesting.
overseer from the shadows, Trazin was like a death jester, toying with and countering the
I
forces
have little
of the
respect for the
13th
Empress
Black
kids.
Crusade.
Bunch of eating
Chaos
lover.
had been beaten
All a
at
bunch of
every
teabagger
turn,
loving
but
subs.
these
I mean, hey,
victories were
listen.
for naught. And the enraged
Gotta respect
Abaddon
it, you know, you gotta respect the
launched
grind.
battered remnants of the
They're just out there trying to get that
enormous
bread, you know what I'm saying?
fortress at Cadia, cracking the very planet apart. It seems Trazin's time
Rylanor is a beast,
pseudo-saving
Rylanor
had
is a
come
beast.
to an end, though he did not miss the chance to acquire some more rare specimens.
Grinning of Fulgrim's nuts on their
Haakon have
faces.
lived
Holy
life as
shit.
mortals, and then immortals. And though the urge to return to the flesh is nearly universal, what will it be like when an eternal being is once again enshrouded in such temporary raiment? Can an immortal being become mortal without going mad?
The moment had arrived.
You know, Fulgrim's nuts are melon sized. What the fuck? It's true though. Fulgrim's probably got those fucking.
His journey had begun. The very
He's got
idea
those
of
melons
what to
for
do with
nuts,
the
you know what I'm
prize
saying?
Had even become unclear. Was Trazin obtaining the treasure because of what it represented? A return to uncorrupted flesh?
He's
Would
got
he
snake
give up
nuts.
his immortality?
What the
Would
fuck?
he give up his mission?
That's awesome.
To collect history. Oricon had been right millennia ago. Trazin was driven by one single purpose.
Fulgrim's got a
Adding
fucking python
more
between his
and
legs, you
more to his
understand me?
collection.
What the
The
fuck?
lengths he had gone just to steal from others. The greed of a hoarder. And now that very greed had brought him back to Serenade.
Fulgrim even keeps a
that would
pet
crown
keeper of
his
secrets as his
In
fat
the
version
shattered,
of himself.
cold
What the
ruins
fuck?
of Serenade, a world that Trazin and Oricon had all but destroyed because of the consequences of their actions. Trazin made his way down to the temple's entrance, Asterium Mysterious in hand. He stood before the gate, feverish with excitement at his upcoming
You can get grinded on by fat or skinny
Then a
Fulgrim
voice
for being
cried
daddy's
out from
slave. What the
behind.
fuck, Andrew?
Orican.
What
Orican
the
had
fuck?
clawed his way through the stone and
Holy
mud.
shit.
Each time he got stuck, he'd rewound his chronosense, starting over and over.
All right, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we had a blue screen of my fucking computer blue screened randomly. I was sitting there, and then it just fucking, yeah, guess what? Your computer has fucking encountered an error. Go fuck yourself. And I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Is it the Mechanicus shit talk? Is that what it was? Like, seriously? Are you fucking kidding me? I'm actually gonna fucking lose my mind, dude. Like, how the fuck does that happen? So I apologize for that that delay, that hold up right there. Trust me, not intentional at all. Fucking but yeah, we're gonna get right back into it. I'm pretty sure I found out right where we were, maybe a couple minutes behind. Well, not even a couple minutes, maybe like 30 seconds behind where we were. We're gonna pick it right back up, right where we left off here. I think we're good to go. Captions are on. Captions on. Quality is good. Quality is good. We're gonna keep going. We got 144 out of 208. Fucking unfortunate, man. I can't believe that. I'm gonna have to meld that on later on. Mechanicus shit talk. Get hit. Apparently, bro. Like, what the fuck? Dude, I don't understand that shit. That's annoying as all hell. Oh well. Well, let's keep going with it. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. If it does, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind, dude.
Down his collection in the shattered, cold ruins of Serenade, a world that Trazyn and Orican had all but destroyed because of the consequences of their actions. Trazyn made his way down to the temple's entrance, Asterium Mysterious in hand. He stood
Gotta
before
start
the
putting
gate,
purity seals on your
feverish
PC,
with
dude.
excitement at his
Fucking, yeah.
upcoming
It might have to
prize.
come to that, to be
Then
honest
a
with you.
voice cried out
I need to
from
light the
behind.
incense every time we start a
Orican.
stream, dude.
Orican had clawed his way through the stone and mud. Each time he got stuck, he'd rewound his chronosense, starting over and over. What took 3 centuries in real time took over 2 millennia for Orican. His necroderma's body was in ruins, almost overheated. He begged Trazyn to stop, offering him
Tell Zinch
anything
to
he
get the fuck
wanted.
out of your monitor.
His time
Yeah,
in
literally.
stone had shown him the truth. The song of the
Your
world,
modem?
the
Yeah,
signal that had
literally,
started
dude.
this all.
I don't even
The
know.
mad
It's not even my
silent
modem.
song was
It's like my
accompanied
fucking
by a
hard drive
second,
or some shit,
subtle
dude. I don't
signal,
understand.
A warning hidden by Datamancer Vishani. Do not be deceived. But Trazyn wouldn't listen, and he opened the gate. The tomb was real, and Trazyn wanted it all. Oh, the beauty and the glory of it. And at the center of the great chamber, there he was, Nephref. Trazyn was utterly enamored and touched the preserved corpse, only for it to shift. The corpse began moving, and it removed its death mask, and its true face made Trazyn scream.
Oh,
Mephetran. The great deceiver stared back.
not the great
A
deceiver.
shard from the war in heaven was Nephref.
Wasn't the key thing there that nobody actually knew his name was the fucking deceiver before they were deceived by him? And then from that point on, he was always known, but he was known as the deceiver before that anyway. Like, how do you not know his name is the deceiver? You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like he's pretty open with that. The big troll himself, yeah, literally, dude. Like, this guy even looks a bit like a jester with his head going on, you know, a little bit. Like, I wouldn't trust him, you know what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't look like a trustworthy sort.
Stared back. A shard from the war in heaven
Innocence,
was
yikes.
Nephref. And now it was free. It thanked the 2 Necron. It had again deceived them, orchestrating its release by osmatic influence. Its release required 2. One cunning enough to decipher the Asterium Mysteriosis cipher, and one reckless enough to ignore the layers
I don't know
of
how we
security
stream like
put in
fucking
place.
10 hours on New
The
Vegas,
signal
bro.
of Serenade
Computer's
had
fine,
pushed
doesn't
Trazyn
blue
to the
screen.
extreme, and the
We'll go
projection
fucking an
of
hour and
Vishani
50 on
had
YouTube.
coerced Orican
2
into
hours 50 on
breaking its
YouTube and it'll
mysteries.
crash.
The
Bullshit.
2 were horrified. Trazyn grabbed the damaged Orican and began to run. But Orokin stopped him. If the shard of the Deceiver escaped, the galaxy would be doomed. They looked at each other, and the words didn't need to be said. The Infinite and the Divine stood side by side together and challenged a god. A worthy enemy is worth.
Do you have a statue of yourself,
tutors.
Oricon? It's
Millions
a purely
of years
binary
of
question.
rivalry had tuned and trained them both. The years of
What the
cunning,
fuck?
strategy, and outmaneuvering had forged Trazyn and Orokin into some of the deadliest Necrons in the galaxy.
The
Reawakening
deadliest
the guards
Necrons,
around
probably.
The tomb, the Infinite and the Divine combined their power and launched themselves at the Deceiver.
Oh.
A clash of titanic proportion ensued. To be at the very center of this battle, your mind would crumble from the sheer cacophony of violence and power.
Oh.
Orokin utilized his significant mental capacity to command and coordinate the desperate army, and Trazyn lunged
Desperate
in
army,
his
oh.
empathic obliterator, a weapon that could hurt the Gitan. Trazyn leaped from body double to body double, even releasing numerous hordes from his collection.
Damn.
Gene stealers, human,
Gene stealers.
orcs, Eldari, and Necron were unleashed as sentient life together battled a god.
That's
Trazyn and
fucked.
Orokin
What a fucked like battle to see, man. Like you have races of all sorts just showing up here and absolutely like they're fighting with each other, even like, you know, unwillingly. They're still fighting with each other. It's fucking very, very interesting, you know. Very cool to see, like the fact that that can happen in 40K, you know. God damn, like what an interesting like prospect to think about. Because you definitely don't think, and like obviously that something like that would never happen any other time. Not against like, not for any reason, but like gene stealers fighting alongside orcs, fighting alongside Astartes, fucking insane. Oh yeah, definitely all mind shackled, like not willing combatants by any means, but like still, like what the fuck? Like yeah, he's like straight up like pokeballing these fuckers out, like, you know. God damn. What a crazy scene.
as sentient life together battled a god. Trazyn and Orokin fought together with a
Is my
skill
dad in
and
the Infinite
mastery
Galleries?
that
He might
only
be.
two who truly
He might
knew
be.
each other could do. But it was still not enough. They had turned the
Trazyn's
tide
museum
many
could be a good
times,
setting for having a
but the
game,
friends
for a
had
game
been
having all
pushed
the
back to
factions.
the
That's true.
entrance. Their forms were damaged.
Honestly, I'm
and
surprised
the
we don't see
hateful
more from the
god was
Necrons in terms of the
almost
games.
upon them. Trazyn reached into his pocket dimension and drew out his most prized possession, the Eldari soul gem he had taken from the world of Serenade millennia ago.
Oh,
He gave it to Orokin, telling him to use it as a conduit to assume his etheric form.
wow.
At the edge of death, holding on for dear life, Orokin concentrated, crushing the gem between his hands, and he began to glow. The power of a world's
Wow.
worth of souls flooded within him, and as Trazyn's screams were drowned out, an apotheosis had begun. A shining, godlike creature emerged. Orokin had transformed. This creature of blinding power strode up to the Deceiver, a god versus god. It was almost overwhelming.
Wow.
Orokin saw the cosmic universe in a way no mortal creature could ever understand. To
Jesus.
achieve the essence of real externality, whether of time or space or dimension, one must forget such things as organic life, good.
So did Orokin unironically get his souls back times like 1,000 here? Or is he still very much just like a Necron still? Because he just crushed that soul gem in a sense, and now he's godlike in a sense. Like what the fuck? Yeah, Super Saiyan Orokin. Like, bro, did he actually get some semblance of a soul back when he did this or no? The Ultramarine Company, I choose you. Yeah, literally. They are the main foe in Mechanicus. Oh, are they? That's actually interesting. I never played Mechanicus. Trazyn's Museum should be the next Alien Isolation type game. It should be. Again, an Alien Isolation type game in any aspect of the Warhammer universe would be awesome. On board like a Chaos vessel or a Chaos controlled world, on board like a Drukhari vessel, anything like that. Like, bro, like there's so much like potential for a true horror game in the Warhammer universe. I'm really shocked they haven't went that route at all. I think it's a really missed opportunity. Even try it. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it's not successful, but I'd play it. It sounds super interesting to me. You know what I mean? Not a hack and slash, not something, you know, where you're OP, not something where you're a hero, but something where you're literally just like fucking hiding for your life, fighting for survival, like literally just trying to be out there. Even if you're just a guardsman on like a planet where an orc invasion is taking place, that's a fucking horror game. You know what I mean? That's straight up a fucking horror game, like the Outlast style game. Exactly. Like even something like that would be amazing. Exactly like that. Outlast, but Warhammer related would be sick. Still without soul, his souls. I see. I guess we're also getting a 40k Total War. Oh, are we actually? Really? I'm shocked. Like, it's about time. That sounds awesome, not gonna lie. Is it actually like made by Total War? Or is it a different developer? Or a different game series, I guess.
Mention. One must forget such
in Mechanicus 2, you'll be able to play as the Necrons?
Good and evil.
That's pretty awesome.
Love and hate.
Same studio? Okay.
Gnawing hunger gripped
I'll have to look into that. That actually sounds really interesting.
And hate flowed from him.
Because we haven't gotten anything related to like guns in Total War since like what? Shogun 2?
Mud, staring into the face.
I guess like handgunners and shit in like the Total War Warhammer games, but like
everything from the Necron tier. Orokin strode forward, and the new god shattered the.
I should reiterate, Total War Warhammer, it does have like cannons and stuff. It does obviously have a lot of those units, but like it was that or like Shogun 2 or like Empire or Napoleon. They don't really do a lot of stuff with like guns or like, you know, modern-esque, I guess, equipment. And it's going to be interesting to see how they do like a sci-fi 40k related game. Because I feel like that would be super, super interesting. Like, it's just going to be confusing. Not confusing, but interesting, I guess, to see how they do like the ranges on weaponry and shit on the battle space. That's going to be interesting to see. It's all super early rumors, but basically more or less confirmed. Well, it's cool that they're going that route at a minimum. Be very, very cool to see. Since GW game surviving a night on Nostromo, dude. Even like, bro, could you imagine if you're just on Nostromo and like you just have to like literally just like go about your day just as like a normal person, and that's the entire game. Like, you know, like that'd be fucked. Skaven have miniguns. Yeah, I know Skaven have miniguns. Like, obviously the dwarves have guns and shit like that. But it's something that, like, besides the Warhammer franchise, it's something that developer hasn't really done much of. Like, let's say, like, even in their historical titles, like, they've only had 3 games with guns in them prior to, like, Total War Warhammer. They did it well in Total War Warhammer, to be fair. Like, I think the units with guns do work really, really well. It's just going to be interesting with like the 40k interpretation on them, right? Because, like, you know, if the tower in that game, they're going to be fucking cross map sniping you every fucking game you're in. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, to be balanced, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that.
Orokin strode forward.
Skaven have nukes? What the fuck?
Shattered the
Tau
deceiver.
supremacy? Like, literally, Tau supremacy. Tau would fucking own everything. They'd be OP in a Total War game, I imagine.
Found the diviner in a corner. His battered legs.
But that's what I mean. They'd have to balance it. You know what I'm saying? It'd be interesting to see how they do that.
His entire frame, from headdress to lashing tail, had turned black. It was not ash or burn marks. The interdimensional energies had fused the shadows to his necrodermis.
Orokin, have you suffered damage?
There was no answer.
Skaven have tractor beams that can pull the moon down to Earth? What the fuck?
Put a hand on his quaking shoulder plate.
They basically got that orc gameplay going on.
Wailed, trying to shrink back into the masonry.
It's all right, friend. It's all right.
Trazin held up his palms to show he was no threat.
You have been through a shocking transition, to be sure. But the danger is past. Provided you are not suffering critical damage. I'm scrying you for injury or malfunction.
Orokin said nothing, stared at the floor. Trazin ran a diagnostic scry, palm hovering around Orokin's cranium longer than the rest of his body, careful not to intrude too far into the diviner's space.
Thank your stars, Orikon. Nothing irrecoverable. Few servos here and there, sundry damage to the electrolocation systems. A wonder there is not more, given how much energy you channeled. And
True.
likely some engram corruption. You may lose memories for a time, but they will come back.
That's not terrible.
Trazin's mouth twitched, and he brought a tesseract labyrinth out of his dimensional pocket. Orikon shrank away.
You tore the deceiver to pieces, dear rival. Sucked the energy of each shard dry before casting it off. And I was there to catch them before they could collect enough energy to flee.
He tapped a finger on the labyrinth.
So now they're mine. Thank you, Orokin.
So
I'm
yes,
up 2-0. Yes.
Not.
Orokin's vocal emitters dissolved into a burr of static for a moment.
Talking about the deceiver. I want to know about the other one. Is it gone?
Trazin paused.
I do hope so, Orikon. I do hope so.
Then he stood and offered a hand up.
Come now, we must rebuild the Tesseract Vault and put these labyrinths within. A vault inside a vault, each shard in a separate labyrinth.
Orikon nodded and took the hand. His body was stiff. One leg would not bend.
Thanks for adding the deceiver to my Pokemon collection, Orokin. Like, literally.
Ruined vault,
Thank you for being a good friend and
Mysterious
helping a
here,
brother out with that.
Sealed inside.
said
I'm acting
Orikon.
concerned, but really, you did me a great
Find
favor.
this place again.
Indeed.
Said Trazin. He stopped, looked at the archivist.
Is that
with
fight
an
between
eye
Orkin
that
and
Trazin
Catan just to
noticed
show
was
how powerful they were?
temporarily burned
They
blind.
destroyed 5 planets.
Make
Oh,
me an
seriously?
oath.
During that battle?
An honor pact. That neither of us will come here again.
He held out a forearm, fused to the point it could not move at the elbow servo.
Agreed.
Said Trazin, gripping the forearm, the oath seal.
The contents of this vault are too dangerous for anyone to possess.
Especially us.
Said Orikon, and ambled towards the ruined vault. To reach it, they would need to cross a mountain of corpses.
I see
Said the Deceiver Shard.
that it is time for more questions. What shall we be returning to in this session? Child Trazin. Disposition of Catan necroforces at the siege of Pyth. Proper taxonomy of emergent daemon consciousnesses of the Empyrean. What knowledge would you like to explore? And what are you willing to pay for it?
Trazin dipped a hand in his dimensional pocket, drew out what appeared to be a small homunculus, a being no larger than Trazin's hand, that struggled in his grip. Radiance showed through the gaps in his fingers as he held the creature out for the Deceiver's inspection.
It is small,
Said the Deceiver.
a shard of a shard. Never were the Nyarak known for stinginess.
These are not simple to obtain,
Said Trazin.
and we both know the risk I take in giving them to you at all.
Yes.
The
What the
Deceiver
fuck?
laughed. The deep sound of it screened out by Trazin's filters, so it would not upset his vitals.
Interesting.
Want me daring through this prison, would we?
Trazin felt, at times, a measure of guilt about having told Orikon there were only 5 shards, for keeping one for himself.
Motherfucker.
Entranced by the amount of power these ancient shards held, the knowledge they had of the galaxy, and the knowledge of things impossible.
So is he literally just keeping this fucking... He's keeping the Deceiver just in his fucking own pocket dimension here, and he's just fucking, like, feeding him these homunculi? Like, they're working out a deal kind of thing? Is that literally what's happening here? Trazin's such a motherfucker. He's such a rat, dude. He's actually just such a rat. Real rat behavior here. I can respect it, though. I can respect him for it. And I like how he just has this pocket dimension. He just constantly just roots through, you know, whenever he needs something, he just goes and fucking, here's my pocket dimension. Let me take whatever I goddamn need out of it. I bet it's a nightmare to find your keys in a pocket dimension. Yeah, how does he organize that shit? He always gets what he needs pretty quickly, it seems like. He's feeding him in exchange for informations. God damn it. Like, what how do you even know this information's true? Like, this is literally the deceiver. Like, the deceiver. This is the guy. Like, I don't know, man. Seems a little sus to me.
Knowledge they had the galaxy, and the knowledge of things impossible.
He's feeding it shards of a shard in exchange for information.
The deceiver said, long tongue curling over the plasma that dripped over its chin.
What do you wish in return?
The Great Rift.
Said Trazyn.
I wish to know about its properties.
The deceiver grinned.
So you wish to close it?
No. I wish to enter it.
Unchanging?
60 million years of existence. Stars have supernovaed. Civilizations have risen to their zenith and crumbled away. And yet Trazyn and Oricon still exist. Still roam the galaxy, causing mischief and turmoil wherever they go.
Of course.
From their beginnings upon the Necron-tier homeworld, they were born into
I guess your phone is like a pocket dimension?
Scions
Could
of
be,
two
yeah.
great dynasties.
I guess that's a way to think
But
about
that
it.
time was not one of ascendancy for the Necron-tier. In the ashes of the civil wars and the war in heaven, Trazyn and Oricon were surrounded by a bitter, ambitious people, whose days of glory seemed behind them. They checked every morning for the cancerous growths that were destined to kill them, sending them to the venerated ancestors who had escaped the torment of the Necron-tier's painful existence. A constant, looming anxiety. As the
Trey is
two
using
grew to
super fast
adulthood,
Amazon
they
Prime delivery
specialized and
services.
adapted.
Pretty much, yeah.
Trazyn following heavily in
Yeah,
the
like it's
ideals of
Amazon
this
on
wealthy,
crack is basically what he's
rising
using.
Dynasty, becoming a recorder of history, finding a love for those precious moments of drama and wonder. The weak of body Oricon rebelled against his dynasty's ideals, sharpening his mind and wit, delving into the very power of time itself. The two began to develop their view of the universe, something that had begun to define them and bring them into conflict. At the royal court they began to bicker and clash, butting heads over how they would handle events and situations. All of it changed with the arrival of the Catan. They offered immortality, revenge, and freedom from pain, a choice their silent king could not refuse. Despite the lone voice of Oricon speaking against these so-called gods.
Also, the name The
old
Silent
and
King.
hunched Trazyn feared losing
Definitely
his
you want to
mind,
get yourself a better
his
name than
library
that,
of
right?
history and culture, but immortal life could preserve it.
They call him
forever.
General Do Nothing
Trazyn
Oliver.
followed
You know what I'm
the
saying?
Silent
Like, what the
King's
fuck?
orders, and dragged his rival Oricon and many others from their homes into the bio-furnaces. As the two stepped into the fire, the pain was overwhelming. They emerged inside metallic prison bodies.
Guess his problem isn't that he did
Part of
nothing,
them
it's the
had
fact that he did
lost.
too much.
Even their memories of their life before were violated by the Catan. They were betrayed, altered, changed into a parody of their former selves. Their ambition to live, to innovate, to change had been taken from them. As immortals, the priorities and ambitions of both became galaxy-spanning. And upon
Silent,
their
he went into
reawakening
a 60
in the
million
30th
year
millennium,
timeout outside of
their
the Milky Way.
rivalry
Oh, did he just fuck
reignited.
off in deep space?
One to preserve.
What was he doing out
and
there?
One to predict. One to look to the past and one to the future. Oricon had discovered something incredible. An etheric state in which he was free. He was evolved. The salvation and transformation, the future of the Necrons was his desire. So it did not matter how petty, spiteful or reckless he was,
He was conquering empires and other galaxies?
Purpose.
Seriously? What the fuck?
Trazyn had spent millennia collecting.
It doesn't say as far as we know, as far as I know.
To the galleries on his world of Solemnace.
Interesting.
A magnum opus to be viewed by those who would appreciate the wonders the galaxy had to offer. He ever increasingly sought rarer, older, and specialized prizes for his grand collection.
10 edition codex?
Each piece added, improving the beauty of his collective. The Asterium Mysterios and Nefret's tomb represented everything the two desired. They betrayed, beat, shot, insulted, and fought with each other for over 10,000 years.
Damn.
Even being forced to work together, discovering and unwinding their dislike for each other, understanding their justified and unjustified hate towards each other. Their journey's end at the tomb of Nefref was a horrifying revelation. They had once again been tricked by the Deceiver, the creature they hated most in the galaxy. The two together fought like titans, challenging.
And then Trazyn fucking backstabbed Olsen. Pokeball the Deceiver.
And hate are closer than you would think, and so are rivalry and respect. Since the biotransference into Necrons, perhaps the Catan had taken away something more precious: the ability to change. The truth was there all along. The opposite of any bond is indifference. Trazyn and Orokin have bickered, betrayed, and fought with each other for countless years, and yet they have saved the galaxy together. Perhaps they truly desire for this great game to continue, this bond that ties them to who they were in the time of flesh. With the shattered remnants of the true Datamancer Vishani taken from Nefref's tomb, Orokin continues with his great plan, his path to the future of his race, and his plans to exact the lessons Trazyn so richly deserves. Despite giving his word, Trazyn couldn't quite help himself, keeping a smaller shard of the
Couldn't help
Deceiver
himself.
The
Motherfucker.
Infinite couldn't let such a valuable piece be wasted. More pieces need to be collected, more secrets need to be harvested, and his quest for rarer specimens lead him into the Great Rift. What prizes await collection for his beautiful galleries? Conflict, mayhem, mischief, and petty bickering all await the infinite and the divine.
Wow, guys. That was pretty good. I think we just have credits at the end there. No credits. Just thank you for watching. 4 minutes. Okay. Awesome. Well, yeah, that was The Infinite and the Divine, 40k lore by the Amberkin guys. That one was really good, I'm not gonna lie. I've heard nothing but great things about The Infinite and Divine, and I really was not disappointed by that. I thought that was really, really good. Obviously, it was great to see Trazyn, great to see the fuckery he gets up to, great to see all that. And yeah, he just continued and persisted to backstab Olsen, even up until the end there, which is kind of crazy, I'm not gonna lie. Kind of nuts, too, like... That's the moment I come back to. Oh yeah, sorry Hobbit, sorry. Apologies about that. Let's see here. Necron tier society is ruled by the Triarch. 3 rulers, 2 would speak and tell orders. The 3rd, the Silent King, would only speak, and the 2 and be the definitive judge on decisions, never speaking to the others. I see, I see. I guess that makes sense why he's called the Silent King then. What color poke game do we think Trey started on? Yeah, literally. What was his first, do you think? What started his addiction? Blue, Soul Silver? I think mine was... My first wasn't Soul Silver, but Soul Silver was the first I actually, like, myself owned. You should check Trazyn and Orokin out by DVU Kyo. It's short and they have great voices. I might check that out another day. I'm probably gonna keep it just to this video for tonight. I might be streaming some games later though. but I do want to keep it to this one for tonight. Just because I already, the stream already fucking technically ended once, and it's already gonna be a nightmare to fucking, it's not a nightmare to put it together, it just sucks that like it's not one conducive live stream on YouTube now, it's 2 parts, which is kind of annoying, but is what it is. If it's confirmed he's done some conquering in other galaxies, I'm gonna need to read that. Yeah, that's kind of insane if that's true. That is rather insane, I won't lie. You need to check out the Chaos Marine Star Wars comedy vids sent. You'll love those. Yeah, I'll definitely have to check those out. If you want, post a fucking a link to them in the Discord there. I don't know if you already have. I'm not too sure. I haven't seen those ones, so I don't think pop up. So post those in the Discord again, just so I know I for sure see them. But yeah, guys, we're probably gonna call it here for this one. Unfortunately, sorry for anybody that popped out. I know we had quite a few more viewers in here for when we were streaming initially there, but yes, my computer did blue screen, so that was mega unfortunate. I apologize for that, because that fucking sucks. So I apologize that we had that little interruption there. But we did finish it off here at least, so that's always good to see. But yes, guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Big shout out to all of our members, all of our Hastati and our Principe Dagenhart. I appreciate you guys. You guys inspire me to make more content for you guys every single day, of course. And yeah, I probably will be streaming later tonight. I don't know what exactly I'm going to stream yet. Maybe some more Fallout. I'm not too sure yet. Maybe something else entirely different. I have something in mind. I've been wanting to play for a little bit, so we'll see. We'll see. But maybe Vegas, we'll see. It all depends. I have something new I've been wanting to try out, so maybe we'll do that tonight. If not, we'll probably do some Vegas later. But yes, guys, if you guys enjoyed, make sure you leave a like on the stream. Again, I know, pain in the ass, but make sure you leave a like on the stream again, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. But yeah, we will be calling it here. This has been Centurion. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.